morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids. Welcome to Season 3 and episode number 199 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Friday, August 31st, 2023. And according to the weather network, it will be a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me as always is my dear friend, Mr. Grizzly. Of course, a big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We have a Friday morning bite for you. But before we do anything else, let's say good morning to our dear friend, Mr. Grizzly, and ask, how's your mental health doing? You're looking a little fuzzy on my screen.
Good morning, Mr. Beaver. Yeah, for some reason I got some fuzziness going. I don't know what's happening there. I'm a little tired. I was up much later than intended last night. We sat around chatting and listening to music for several hours, and at one point, because it gets dark so early now,
Yep.
right? I remember at one point, I look at my watch and I go, "Oh my goodness, it's only it's 9:30. I think we can we can listen to more music and hang out."
Yep.
Then I looked at my watch again and I go, 12:45. Oh, it's bedtime. It's time to go to bed.
Similar for us.
Yeah, I'm a little
Sorry.
groggy this morning.
Yeah, similar for me. I'm a little groggy. I'm looking bright-eyed, bushy-tailed though, as I look at myself on my screen. But same thing. Yeah. Last night we decided we were going to go out for dinner, and we did the alfresco thing. And it's been 2 days now that I've been breaking out the hoodie. Thank you, Kid Hugh. By the way, it was a lovely gift. Well, the other day I was going to play tennis, and I was playing at 7 in the evening, and I got on my bike, and I biked about a minute, and I turned back, and I got myself a hoodie because it was kind of cool already, and I figured, well, if we finish playing at 8, and I'm all wet and sweaty, and when we're playing at 8, there's going to be no light up in the sky whatsoever. It might be a little. It might be a painful ride back, or not painful, but very unpleasant. So yesterday we decided we were going to go eat, and we went to this beautiful Indian restaurant in Kingston called Namaste can't recommend it enough. If you're ever in town, please check it out. And we decided to dine al fresco outside, which was still comfortable, but almost a mistake. The food cooled down a whole lot faster than it would have otherwise.
Well,
But we had a lovely evening, and we got back and did a little bit of work on the show. And at one point, I look at my sweetie and I look at him and go, "So is it snuggle time yet?" And said, "Yep, very soon." And next thing you know, another 2.5 hours went by, and it was well past midnight before we went to bed. Same thing, and it's like, ooh, yeah. The light getting fading a little earlier, and it's not like just 1 minute a day. It's like 2 to 3, 4 minutes a day.
yeah,
Every day
it's
now.
noticeable.
It's, it's speeding up a little bit. So it's like, oh yeah, it's getting the autumn is coming now. I know you don't like it. For me, it's my favorite season, so I'm quite happy. But yeah. And it was also the last night of movies in the square here in Kingston, in the square by City Hall. They have this big inflatable screen that they put up, and they show movies every Thursday. And yesterday it was the latest Minions one, which I did miss in the movie theater. So I would have, but we had totally forgotten about it. So when we left, it was like, oh yeah, movie night. I was like, well, we didn't bring chairs and we didn't bring blankets, so we ain't watching it. And I ain't standing for 2 hours.
There's a few spots around town that does that here. It's like movies in the park, movies on the beach, that sort of thing. I haven't been because none of the movies that they're showing are of any great interest to me, number one. And number two, over the last few years, I've not had a lovely partner to accompany me to a film. So, it's going like I've gone to the movie theater by myself to watch a movie, and that's completely fine. You sit in the dark. It's like a movie date is great for a first date, or if you've been with somebody for a while, because you can just go and sit and not talk to one another for 2 hours.
Yeah. See, with my Beaver sweetie, that's the case. I can not talk for a few hours, but then like when we get out of the movie, like we talk about the movie.
Well, yeah, that's
4 or
the thing,
5, right?
So a date with a partner is like you're gonna chat before the film, watch the movie, don't talk to one another for 2 hours, and then after the movie, you're gonna talk for hours. First, you go, you have a bite to eat and a drink, and then you go watch the movie, and you don't talk for 2 hours, and after the words, it's like, what'd you think of the movie? I didn't enjoy it at all. Okay, so take care. See you later.
What did you think of the movie? I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
The sooner I forget it, the better.
Yeah. I was like, I loved it. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, that was the worst piece of trash I've seen since The Room.
Speaking of bad movies, since we were yesterday, you know what the movie was last Thursday?
What?
Grease 2.
Oh, the worst.
I know.
It's such a bad movie.
I so wanted to see it as soon as I saw it.
But it's the movie that introduced
crap,
Michelle Pfeiffer to me. So
I know, but it's just like, crap, one of the worst movies of all time, and I actually like it. So it's like,
it's really bad.
Yeah, but so bad it's good.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, you know what movie is Rada?
Cool,
Rada. You know what movie is absolutely terrible, and everybody loves the film, and I'm like, no, it's a terrible movie. And they're like, no, I'm gonna rewatch it. And a lot of friends of mine did that right after Prince died.
Purple, yes,
I'm gonna rewatch Purple Rain. Thing. I'm like, don't. They're like, why not? And I go, it's a terrible movie. No, I remember what I'm telling you. It's a terrible movie. And they rewatch and they go, I really should have listened to you.
It did the same thing. I was too young to go see it in the movie theaters when it came out. It was like 83, 84, right? So I was 10 or 11 or something. I was like, I think it was 16. Rated. Was it rated R? Yeah, it was rated R. So
today it wouldn't. No. Today it wouldn't be rated R.
Not at all.
Today they just show it on television.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, he just died, and I'm listening to I've got my box set of Prince's greatest hits and the B-sides, and I've been listening to it like crazy. And like my girlfriend Deborah comes, and Alex and I call her our fairy gay daughter. We're fairy gay fathers, and it's like, well, there's about 10 years difference. So I was like, okay, they don't know Purple Rain for sure. They know the song, they know the music, but they don't know the movie. And they were playing it in theaters the whole week. So it's like, we got to go see Purple Rain, man. This movie was nominated for Oscars, and it had like 5 or 6 hits and won a whole bunch of Grammys. And I was sitting there in the theater, I'm going, oh my God, this is really
It's
horrible.
It's a terrible movie.
It's really bad.
I mean, it's really bad. The acting is horrible.
The only thing good
the
about it is the
editing is
music
terrible.
scenes.
That's it. The concert performance scenes are good.
Amazing, but that's about it.
And to that, the music you hear in the film was recorded live in the club a month before 2 months before they shot the film. So they did a concert, they recorded all of the music, and then when they're performing in the movie, of course Prince is singing, but they played the soundtrack, right? Because he performed live in the film, but what you hear is what they recorded a month before, so that there's no mistakes or anything. But yeah, that's the only reason to watch the movie is for the concert performances, because the movie itself is just bloody awful. It's terrible. And their scenes was like, was the editor high or drunk? Because it's like, you should have cut that scene 5 seconds before, because you can see the actor finished acting and broke character and became somebody else as they walked off set. I'm like, who the hell did the editing on this? How was this released in theaters? You know what? It was the 80s. Everybody was on cocaine.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Yep.
I mean, it's such a brutal film, but a brilliant soundtrack from a brilliant artist who I dearly miss.
Yes, and who I never had the good fortune of seeing live in concert.
Neither did I, and I still kick myself for that.
I would give my left gonad.
This is exactly what took place, James. Lighting guy. The bulbs have all gone out, director. No time. We got to get the shot. That's basically what it was. Can we do another take? Nope. We're losing the light. It's done.
Print it.
Morris Day. Some of the scenes with Morris Day in the time, I'm like...
That's probably some of the best stuff in the movie.
But they were horrible too.
Yes. Yes, they were horrible. But I love that song, Jungle Love. Oh, oh. Oh, man.
No, but his acting scenes were brutal. Great performer, great artist. Love the music, but oof. So Dan, my suggestion is Caesar.
Cures for a hangover at 45 years old, Caesar. Yep.
Caesar.
Yep.
Or it won't cure it, but it'll make you feel better.
Cold compress on the head.
Well, that too.
Yep. But Caesar. Caesar's the tastier option. Now, remember, you put the cold compress on your head and you drink the Caesar, not the other way around.
Not the other way around.
Don't drink the compress.
No.
That one doesn't work as well.
Oh, you're having a breakfast beer. Oh, my goodness.
Ooh, breakfast beer. All right, kids, lots of stuff in the news. It's going to be a little bit of a hodgepodge. I don't think I have a particular theme today. All right.
No, I do. Well,
Kid Jen. Oh, damn. We knockin' Purple Rain puts hair in a bun.
Ready to fight.
Oh, my.
Great music. Terrible movie. Take the Lee press-ons off.
Click, 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 click. My earrings. Here's my poodle. Here's my purse. Hold my iPhone. Oh my God. Okay. Today we have economic news coming in. Hopefully it might be in before the end of the show so we can tap in and give it to you. But Statistics Canada will be releasing its second quarter numbers for GDP. So that will cover the months of April, May, and June of this year. It is expected, or early estimate by Statistics Canada points to a contraction of 0.2% in real GDP for June, while growth in the second quarter was estimated at an annualized rate of 1%. The decrease in June will probably be attributed to wholesale trade and manufacturing sectors, though the agency cautioned the numbers are preliminary at the moment and said they're going to be updated, which is coming out today. This data point is probably the most central one for the Bank of Canada's upcoming interest rate decision, which will be made on Wednesday as to whether or not they will increase again or hold line, a slight contraction or a very low, especially if there's contraction in June. But a low GDP growth number, either in contraction or low, below 2%, may convince the bank to put a hold on an interest rate hike. which I would really love. Thank you very much. But because every time they raise it 0.25%, it's another about $50 or so out of my, and they've done that 11 times. So that's a lot of $50 a shot for the mortgage. So yeah. A new poll, meanwhile, suggests that the cost of living has almost half of Canadians just getting by, including young people in particular. 47% of the people overall polled by Leger says that they are living paycheck to paycheck. And when it comes to those under 35, more than half say they are living paycheck to paycheck. And almost 50% of them are worried about losing their job next year. So there's a lot for the government to do and to address with regard to that, all knowing that there are obviously some very, very set limitations on what they can do because, I mean, they don't control the interest rate and they should not, which is the federal government, and they certainly do not control global climate change or when OPEC decides they're going to do a cut in production or when Putin decides he's not going to let grain ship out of Ukraine or all the other things that are just not our fault. And listen, as much as conservatives like to take every single data point that goes wrong and say, oh, it's all Trudeau's fault, we're all basically playing rodeo here. Something happens somewhere in the world, and then we all just try to hold on for 8 seconds and adapt before being thrown off. So, governments are not particularly fast-acting and nimble, right? It's a big machine that you got to turn around. So this is, I know it's politics, and when we have problems now, and we don't have a lot of patience, and we want it solved now. But if you don't have patience, and if you don't have the ability to sort of be the river, something goes wrong, okay, I'm just going to go this way, rather than getting upset and worked up and, causing yourself a lot of stress and cortisol and all of that kind of stuff. Just think, okay, this is the way it is. I'm just going to do this now. We're maybe in this phase for a while.
And I know that a lot of people are worried about, losing jobs and getting laid off, and that is a big concern and an understandable one. I've been in that before. There's no danger of that for me at any time in the near future. My contract was just renewed, so I'm fine. But I learned about something yesterday that I did not know existed. And we don't have this in this country. This is in the United States of America. It's called the WARN Act Compliance Assistance. The Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act helps to ensure advance notice in cases of qualified plant closings and mass layoffs. The U.S. Department of Labor has compliance assistant materials to help workers and employers understand their rights and responsibilities under the provisions of WARN. So if a plant or where you may work is about to close, they have to let the government close or have mass layoffs or anything to that extent. They have to warn the federal government in advance, not state government, federal government. And then the WARN Act will put out a notification for employees, which means you could know 3 months in advance that your job is going to be terminated after a certain period. Like at the end of the next quarter, your job would be terminated. So you could start looking for a new job 3 months before you get laid off. I'm like, this is brilliant. I don't know who came up with this, but that should be something we have in this country.
That should be something we have. Yeah.
It should be. Yes. That's a European ideal, and this is an American thing.
Yeah, you shouldn't just be waking up one day and finding out that day as you get into work, oh, here's your box. Leave.
Yeah. Like what? Huh?
Here's your stuff. Oh, by the way, by the way, we got some severance for you. No, how about you let me know 3 months before that you're going to go belly up so I can do something so that when you give me my severance, I can bank that.
Well, not only that, it's like the Let's Talk folks who, took $122 million in COVID money and then laid off 1,200 employees the next day.
Yeah. Let's talk about how we could pad our bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the Alberta government, for itself, says that it's on track to record a $2.4 billion surplus for this fiscal year. about 90 million more than expected. That's despite slightly lower predicted revenue from oil and gas and almost $1 billion spent on wildfires. And that $1 billion amounts to about 3/4 of the money the Smith government had set aside for emergencies. So yes, we're starting September, and there's 3 more months, and I guess that means they calculated it right. 3/4 of the year gone, 3/4 of the budget gone. But if there's something coming this fall or this winter before the end of the year, there's, like I said, there's only a quarter left in the kitty. So governments might be realizing that these big contingency funds that they're putting together in case of emergencies are actually not that big.
Dan, please tell me you didn't sign any documentation when they gave you your notice.
Wow, the city gave me 3 minutes notice and $700.
Please tell me you didn't sign anything. Because if you signed it, you're screwed. But that's what they did is illegal.
Wow.
That's illegal.
Wow.
That you are owed a lot more money. Period. There is a website. I'll see if I can find it here that I suggest you go to.
He says not.
You didn't sign anything? Okay.
He says
so
not.
Good.
You
are entitled to a lot more.
Yeah.
There is a severance calculator. Here, I've used it before. And Ontario, BC, and Alberta severance pay calculator. Yes, I have it here. I will put this link in the chat, and please check this out. Anybody who is thinking they were owed more money, this is a legal. It's from a law firm. It's Semfiru Tumerkin LLP. And it's employer and employee. Please indicate which of the following roles applies to you. And there's a whole bunch of questions, and it takes you from there, and it will help you determine how much money you are owed. Period.
Good. Dan reports, but I got offered another job, so it worked out. Tell us more about that, my friend. Put it in the
we didn't know that.
Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news, buddy.
I'm glad to hear that, friend. Way to go. Back to Alberta. Nate Horner, the finance minister, is quoted as saying, "Our positive numbers today are a testament to the results we continue to build in the province's finances. Our strong population growth and low-cost, low-tax, business-friendly environment are driving a projected $1.5 billion income tax revenue increase." I'm not sure so much if that's what's contributing to it or whether it's just the fact that the price of oil has gone up. Low cost, low tax, business friendly environment. Yeah. Ask the renewable sector how business friendly you are. Alberta? Alberta is expected to lead the country in economic growth, which means the rest of us won't stop hearing the end of it. We'll never hear the end of it. If it wasn't because of Alberta, none of you would be able to have any of the nice things you have. You guys live off us. Everything you have is because of us. No, it's not even true. Once debt-free, the province of Alberta will owe $77 billion at year end, according to projections. In Saskatchewan, things are not going as well. The Minister of Finance, Donna Harpour, maybe, says the province has cut its projection for a $1 billion surplus in half due to a more than $500 million drop in non-renewable resource revenues. So that's what it's like being the little cousin. You have oil, but not as much. So when it does really well, it does well for you for a while, but it also leaves you first. While Alberta's still doing well, you're not. See, Alberta's surplus is increasing by 90 million, but your projected one is dropped by 500 million. So either you really overestimated that at the outset to get some good press, and this news here is coming out late on a Thursday, or the downturn affected you more because you haven't diversified your economy enough yet.
Well, And what did they just do in Alberta? What was the brilliant thing that Mensa level of stupidity premier just did? Killed, put a 6-month moratorium on green energy. The province that was leading the country in green energy.
Yep.
Renewable energy.
Yep.
Green
All
energy, leading the country.
all that
17% of Alberta's supply was green.
Yep.
And how much money just left? 24 or $34 billion in projects have been canceled. 24,000 jobs. Yeah.
Yep. And all because this premise that we need to increase our baseload power. Well, when she says baseload, she means oil and gas.
That's it. Nothing else.
We need to increase our baseload power first.
You know why?
To make sure that we have enough for when solar and wind don't work, because you're already not exclusively on solar and wind. So it's not like you don't have these alternate resources anyway. And the price of energy in your province has gone up 127.8% year over year.
One of the things that when they say when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, what are we going to do then? Well, actually, these renewable energy companies are working on storage systems, something we currently do not have.
Right.
Storage. So basically giant capacitors or batteries that will store the energy that doesn't get used so that when we need it, when the system dips, we have it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she would only listen to her ONG CEO overlords that run the province of Alberta, along with a bunch of religious zealots, and canceled all of the goodness that was happening. In Texas is leading the United States of America in green and renewable energy sources, which is a surprise to a lot of people because Texas is oil country. But here's the thing. Here's what Texas energy companies have said. We're an energy company.
Yes.
That's it. We're in the business of producing and selling energy. So whether it's green, whether it's oil, whether it's gas, whether it's coal, whether it's wind, whether it's solar, we're an
whether
energy
you're
company.
trapping farts in a jar.
If we're taking corn and using it for ethanol, we are an energy company.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
So let's look at every alternative there is, because the smart companies realize, well, oil is eventually going to run out. And here's the other thing. The Gen Z that's coming up behind us, they are not going to accept what we're doing to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to do what Gen X, my generation, our generation did and just take it.
Right.
Gen Z is like, not happening. We listen to our boomer parents, and I'm not knocking my parents when I say this. This is not what I'm doing. I say boomer parents as in an entire generation. I'm not picking on any particular individual. As a basis, we listened to our boomer parents and did what we were told, and we went to work, and we listened to our bosses. Hopefully they would.
You got a haircut. You got a real job.
You work hard, put your head down and work hard, and you'll get rewarded for your... No, that's not what happened. That didn't happen because in 1980, everything changed for the worst when trickle-down economics, which means that basically the wealthy are pissing on us. Trickle-down economics was brought in by Reagan, which destroyed North America, and a lot of it affected us here. Because
which is why he's my pick for the worst president ever.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with it. I can't think of a worse president
in terms of long-term effects of their policies and
the current state of...
We're still living with Reagan.
Yeah. The current state of the issues that he created 43 years ago are being felt.
Yep.
And yes, you're right about that, Ree. Who brought in Reagan? Oh, that's right. The evangelists.
The same people who gave us Trump.
Yeah.
Hey, God. Oddly enough, Reagan, the last time that the Screen Actors Guild went on strike, Reagan was the president of SAG.
Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Go figure. Back to Saskatchewan, the forecast clearly demonstrates the need to be prudent and manage spending carefully as resource revenue is volatile and forecasts can change quickly due to global impacts on prices and production. Yeah, that's always been the case, sister. Why are you announcing this like it's news? The government's revenue is now projected to be $19.6 billion, down 123.7 million, or 0.6% from March's budget. Non-renewable resource revenue projections are down by 528.9 million due to lower potash and oil prices and lower sales forecasts. Well, you had Saudi Arabia and Russia right in to help you with that by changing the OPEC prices, so maybe that'll work for you a little bit, Mo. God, I just do not understand how this man is the most popular premier in the nation. Oh, God, it makes my brain hurt. He's such a yutz.
Well, the way they went on about last week, the way they went on about Chrystia Freeland got a speeding ticket. I'm like,
yeah, and you killed a guy.
She was doing he killed a woman while he was drunk.
Sorry, a woman, yes. Yep.
A mother.
Yes.
When he was drunk.
Yes. And it wasn't his first DUI.
No, he had like 3 of them, I think, in total, and one of them resulted in a death. And they elected him premier. You want to talk about the epitome when it comes to white men failing up?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, indeed. So yeah, Harpower said that despite the drop in revenue, the government is not moving away from paying down operating debt. Quote, sticking with our debt reduction plan is important because paying down up to $1 billion in operating debt this fiscal year, combined with $1.5 billion in debt retirement last fiscal year, is resulting in projected annualized interest savings of $110 million. Savings that go directly into supporting priority program services and infrastructures for Saskatchewan people, Harpower said, except for if you're running a deficit. Now, this is not saying that they're going to run a deficit. It just means that their surplus is going to be cut in half. But, things happen.
Stuff happens.
All you need is one natural disaster, and that can wipe out $500 million pretty darn quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Now the opposition in Saskatchewan, the opposition finance critic Trent Witherspoon says the government should have announced some sort of cost of living relief, such as a PST reduction, fuel tax cut, or lower power rates. I cannot believe that the NDP is calling for fuel tax cuts. Anyway, the Sask's party's failure to deliver cost of living relief to cash-strapped families and instead hike costs and taxes is inexcusable, Witherspoon said, except that throwing more money into the economy fuels inflation, unless you are targeting it to the people who need it the most. And conservatives never do that.
Nope.
If conservatives start a daycare program, they let absolutely everybody claim their $200 or $400 like this, as opposed to directing it to the people who couldn't afford it without it first. That's what conservatives do. Everybody needs to get their cut, no matter how much they make, or else it's not fair. Whether you make $10,000 a year or $1 million a year, you get your 3%. That's the conservative. Treat everybody absolutely equally. No equity, just one standard. Don't care about people's individual situations. Don't look this. You don't need the money. You don't need the $500 rebate for food because you make $1 million a year. It doesn't matter. You get it anyway.
You get $500 and you get $500.
You would need 1,000 rather than 500 because you're dirt poor. Too bad, so sad. I had to give $500 to that millionaire over there who didn't need it.
Yeah, who doesn't need it and won't even notice it.
So yeah, it's Saskatchewan people have been taking the rising cost of gas, groceries, additional PST, and power bills square on the chin for months, while government coffers have been filled with windfall revenues and additional PST, says Witherspoon. He says that the $150 million increase in PST revenue in the financial updates shows Saskatchewan people are paying. Quote, the Sask party has done worse than nothing while sitting on windfall revenues. They've hiked taxes and fees and power bills more than 3 times in the last year. So, yeah. All you Canadians out west, you keep on screaming, damn you, Trudeau, but you keep on voting for people who do this to you. Or like Daniel Smith, who tells you that you're going to get an energy rebate and then gets elected and turns around and says, oh, no, by the way, that was just a deferral. Sorry, not a rebate. Yeah, you guys are going to all have to pay that back later. And then year-over-year energy prices go up 127.8%. And then, of course, she blames that on the upcoming electrical grid plan from Trudeau rather than the fact that, well, it's decisions that they made. It's decisions they made. And now she's sabotaging the renewable industry in order to get more baseload power investment when there's not much investment for that because we're pretty much already hitting peak oil demand already. According to sources, peak oil refers to the point in time when the maximum rate of global oil production is reached, after which production will begin an irreversible decline. Bloomberg predicts that global demand for road fuel will continue to grow for only 4 more years, with demand peaking in 2027 at 49 million barrels per day before entering terminal decline. Terminal decline. 4 more years before we enter terminal decline, and the government of Alberta is still out there saying we need more base load power, more oil, more gas, and let's suspend everything non-oil and gas until we get more oil, more gas, or at least a plan for it. Which is probably the reason why they want to take over the pension, so that they can, dip into that money to help finance some stuff. They're going to throw good money after bad. In a couple of years, people from Alberta are going to wake up and go, what the hell happened to our pensions and our fund? And then they'll go, well, those liberals. Like they always do. Electric vehicles are expected to displace 20 million barrels per day in oil demand by 2040, up from the 2 million barrels per day. That's a 10-fold increase in the next 17 years. Predicted. And I think in Canada, I think there was a report that came out yesterday that we had hit the tipping point in EV vehicles. There's a certain number of countries.
Really?
Yeah. There's a certain number of countries that have done that, but according to the Financial Post 4 days ago, Canada passes adoption tipping point for electric cars. 23 countries have now crossed the critical threshold, Bloomberg analysis indicates. Bloomberg Green completed an analysis of adoption rates around the world. When we first completed this a year ago, 19 countries had passed what's become a critical EV tipping point, 5% of new car sales powered only by electricity. This threshold signals the start of mass adoption when technological preferences rapidly flip. Since then, 5 more countries have made the leap. The newcomers, Canada, Australia, Spain, Thailand, and Hungary, join a cohort that also includes the US, China, and most Western Europe. The trajectory laid out by these early adopters shows how EVs can surge from 5% to 25% of new cars in just 4 years.
Wow.
Wow. Crazy. That is a huge increase. From 5 to 20. That's a 500% increase in 4 years.
That's crazy.
In adoption. Most successful news technologies, televisions, and this is something that we talk about on the show. I've mentioned that a few times about, early adopters, those who follow in, the ones that come in when everybody does, the one that does after everybody's adopted, and then the stragglers that finally get dragged in kicking and screaming. Those people that goes, I will never drive an electric truck, until you can't actually buy a fuel truck anymore because they're not making them. They're all EV and you can't get one off the used car market because they've all been scrapped or used. What are you going to do? Carry that payload in your hands? Or are you going to finally break down and buy an electric truck?
Well, and you've seen where Amazon's fleet of delivery trucks are all electric, eh?
Mm-hmm.
When they're not farmed out to other companies, when they use their own delivery people, they are all electric vans.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So according to this, most successful new technologies, televisions, mobile phones, LED light bulbs, follow what's called an S-shape adoption curve. Sales, so this is exactly what I was just explaining here. Sales move at a crawl in the early adopter phase, then quickly once things go mainstream. In the case of fully electric vehicles, 5% seems to be the inflection point. The time it takes to get to that level varies widely by country, but once the universal challenges of car costs, charger availability, and driver skepticism are solved for the few, the masses soon follow. In the US, the EV tipping point didn't arrive until late 2021, relatively late for a country with its spending power. There were reasons for that delay. Americans spend more time in their cars than any other populace, and drivers demanded longer ranges than early models offered. Pickup trucks and large SUVs, which make up more than half of the U.S. market, were also slow to electrify due to their massive battery needs. But today, U.S. EV sales are rising fast, up 42% in the second quarter compared to the same period a year ago. 42% year-over-year increase in the second quarter.
Wow.
Wow. But
That's crazy.
I know, but haven't quite matched the explosive trajectory of other countries that have crossed over. That can change as Tesla, the world's largest EV maker, prepares to launch its Cybertruck pickup, and all competitors roll out EVs under some of their most iconic American brands: the Chevy Blazer and Silverado, the Ford Explorer and F-150, the Jeep Wrangler and Ram 1500, to name a few.
The F-150 Lightning is I've been
biggest
reading
selling
a
car.
lot about that. Oh yeah. Well, the F-150 is the biggest selling vehicle in North America. Truck. And the F-150 Lightning, which it's not cheap, but an F-150 is still going to run you like 75, 80. So you get the F-150 Lightning in that neighborhood and you get rebates on top of it. So it balances out. And people are hopping on the bandwagon for that. There's so much power in the battery of the F-150 Lightning. If there was a blackout in your neighborhood, and this is directed basically at people in rural neighborhoods, because usually in urban areas, they get the power on quickly, but it can run your home for 3 days. That's how big the battery is in this truck.
Wow. Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Yeah, as the disasters get bigger, having your truck and having it there charged
Can run your
generator for you. Yeah, exactly. A tipping point may be on the horizon for India, the third largest auto market after China and the US. EVs made up 3% of new car sales in the country's last quarter, after doubling in just 6 months. India's homegrown automakers have been investing heavily in electrification, and Tesla Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in June. Musk says he plans to enter the market as soon as humanly possible. Maybe if Elon enters the Indian market, maybe he'll start tweeting stuff that's not in favor of Taiwan a whole lot less. Because right now he's just trying to keep China happy. Maybe if he diversifies his locations.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think India has surpassed China in population.
I think so, yes.
It was predicted to do it in the next couple of years, and I think they've done it already.
And they have a younger population than China at the moment. China's sort of entering where we are with an aging population, and things are much reversed, and costs going up, whereas India, I think the average age of someone, I think, is like 35 or something.
Yeah, well, and you have to consider too, us, unlike China, whereas even though we are an inverted pyramid, we keep bringing people in, and you got people, well, this is creating the housing crisis. Well, there's more to it than just that. And if we didn't bring more people in, our country would collapse. It's as simple as that.
Right.
We have an aging population. We're not producing more children. How are we going to support ourselves as we get older? Immigration. Now, when they say the housing crisis is at an all-time high because there's just not enough houses to house people, that's not entirely true.
The houses are there. They're just not being used to house people.
Airbnb. That's a huge problem in major urban areas. It's a massive problem.
Yeah, Airbnb should be like, say, you have an extra room in your house.
Well, they're trying to look. They're looking at changing.
You should not be renting apartments or buying homes for the sole purpose of that. Should
there are 65-story condo towers in the south core of Toronto, which are 90 to 95% Airbnb.
Yep.
90 to 95%. Okay, that's a problem. That's like 1,200 units.
Yep.
Or 1,500 units or something like that. That could be housing. So they're looking at changing the rules where to have an Airbnb, you need to live in the home.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes.
And I'm like, that should be it. You have a room you want to rent out for people who want to come and stay
or
with
you go away
I don't want to stay with them.
Your own home, that's your primary principal residence, fine.
Yeah, Say so you go to Florida for the winter or something like that. Yeah,
but sitting there with the calculator going, wait a minute, if the rent here on this place is $1,500 a month, then let's say I can rent it out at $150 a night on Airbnb. I only have to rent it out for 10 nights a month to break even.
Yeah,
let's do it. Now you can't blame people for being capitalists.
No, and I don't. It's just
you blame the people who left the loophole.
Yes.
If you don't make it illegal, people will do it.
And of course, these are all, again, provincial matters.
Yes. I mean, everybody
Basic civics. These are provincial matters.
pretty much everybody has
And
a side
who's in
hustle these
charge?
days.
Who's in charge of most of the provinces right now?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The people that eliminate rent controls.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and Saucy just put a note here that 3,500. Where did I see that? I saw it in the chat somewhere. 3,500. Nova Scotia lost 3,500 homes to Airbnb.
Yep.
Now, Nova Scotia is a population of 1 million people, 500,000 of which live in Halifax. Didn't a whole bunch of homes just burn down this summer?
Yep.
One of them happens to be with a former colleague of mine who relocated to outside of Halifax, like during the pandemic. He lost his home. He lost everything in it. They got away with the clothes on their back. But 3,500 homes are Airbnb. Well, it's time to close the loophole.
Yep. Yep. And as Kid Jen says here, in rental properties that are owned by foreign owners who have never lived in it. That too.
Mm-hmm. That's money laundering is all that is.
Yep. Yep.
And there's tons of that going on too. There are literally thousands of units in the city of Toronto that people have never even set foot in.
Yep.
And have been empty for years.
Yep.
While they launder their cash.
Yep.
And how did that happen again? Who was in charge where they changed the rules on ownership and residing in a home? Who was it again who changed the rules? Oh, that's right, the Harper government.
Yep. Harper.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Harper government did it. Now, here's the thing. Like,
when Skippy going on about the housing crisis, blaming Trudeau, but who started it?
Yeah, but then again, if we're being fair, as Dave Wallace says, when they're all greedy, it's not like Trudeau came back and fixed it.
No, he didn't. He's done nothing to fix it. You're right about that.
And the healthcare thing too, like this, when they decided that they were opening, Trudeau decided he's going to consider that experimentation as being. So I mean,
he's adding to the problem.
He's adding to the problem by not fixing it, by not Harper changed the rules for media ownership. He didn't fix them.
He's done nothing to repair that.
Nothing to repair that. He's done nothing to put in place fairness doctrine. He's done.
So
I mean, these problems are sitting
he
there.
has to wear the blame.
He's not fixing these things, so he must be okay with them.
Clearly. See, we're not liberal cucks. We call out problems when and where we see them.
Man,
he's done nothing to repair any of that.
But man, does he kiss well before he screws us.
Well, that's the thing. And let's not forget who got out, because the federal government used to build houses, right? The federal government used to build houses. For decades, they built houses. They built good houses that were quality product that people still live in today. And they did it, a lot of it, the big push was post-World War II. But they got out of building houses in 1993. Who was in power at the time? Oh, yes, Jean Chrétien. It was the Liberal government that got out of federal government housing. They offloaded that to the provinces. The federal government used to build houses. They offloaded it to the provinces, and what has the provinces done? Right. According to Doug Ford, we're building houses in the Greenbelt because we need it, except the province isn't building a damn thing.
Yep.
It's all private, for-profit developers that are building.
Yep. Got Kid James going, but he keeps his eyes open when he kisses. Yeah. Beautiful eyes, though. Dreamy. Yeah.
Dreamy.
Yeah. If you're a word of advice, if you've just started dating someone, and then you're kissing. Now, I don't know about you, but when I kiss someone, my eyes always close. Right?
Sort of
it's just
natural reaction.
Like this, because it's like I block out the entire world and I stay right here where the action is. I don't go flying off to the sound of 1,000 violins and a fluffy cloud. No, the action's going on right here. I stay right here. Kiss me. If you're kissing me, I'm right with you. Anyway, that was well timed. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But yeah,
I'll be here all day.
But I've been given that word of advice. It's like, if you're kissing someone at one point like this, and you just like take a look and you see they're kissing you with your eye, and their eyes are open, run. That's the advice I've been given.
Yep.
All right. Back to the electric car batteries here. So when I'm talking about that early adoption model, like this, well, it's slow at the beginning. It's
Right.
also slow at the end. Right? Crunchies that cross the tipping point have seen rapid rates of adoption, with a median sales growth of 55% last quarter compared to the same period a year ago. But as with any new technology, growth rates will eventually slow as markets near saturation. The top of the adoption S-curve, they will always be holdouts. In Norway, the world's EV pioneer, growth appears to be slowing after reaching 80% of new vehicles. So pretty much like the vaccine, right? You get to about 80, 90%, and then some people go, no, not
No, not happening. Oh, and there's massive rebates in Norway for that too.
But what I'm saying is that these principles that when we mention on the show and we talk about them, they're universal.
Mm-hmm.
It's new technology,
yes.
right? A new vaccine, right? mRNA technology, electric vehicles, your plasma screen TVs that then become LED TVs, cell phones. You know, it's always the same thing. There's people who go, hey, this is a cool thing, and then jump on it, and then it grows slowly, and then you get to about 5%, 6%, and then it starts to grow rapidly, and then about 75 to 80% people get it, and then there's some people it's like, nope, I'm just not getting it, I don't care, I'm still not convinced, not happening.
Mm-hmm.
You can't pay me enough.
Yeah.
Right? So it takes all kinds to make a world, people. But yeah, in terms of the EVs, like I said, there's much more to the article going on. I just read some of it for you, some pieces here, but it's from the Financial Post. I'll put it in the chat here for you, so you can share it with them, Mr. Grizzly. But please do read it, because there are some principles in this article about early adoption and whatnot that apply to anything. Like that's the core thing, and you take that, and then when there's something new coming on, if you always keep that principle in mind. You know, oh, we put in all this investment and nothing's happening yet. It's such a waste of time, waste of money. Such a so like they're doing about the carbon tax right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't all these carbon pricing stopping these wildfires? You said it was going to be doing it. It doesn't do enough. Yeah, because we brought it in at a super, super low weight to sort of condition people for 5 years because we know that they'd be screaming and yelling. And it's only now that we're starting to raise it up to a certain amount where it's going to start making a difference.
Mm.
So you got to give things time to work. We're adopting a new Indo-Pacific strategy. 3 days later, it didn't work. I was like, dude. Or we're going to pass that. It didn't work. It's not in effect yet. We only passed it. It takes effect in 2 months. Chill.
Yeah.
It's already a failure. They're quick to want to declare things failure.
Of course they are.
They don't want to.
Especially something that was not their idea.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing about carbon pricing. It was their idea.
And greenhouse gas.
It's a conservative idea. It's the same principle we used for acid rain, which was Mulroney.
Under Brian Mulroney.
And it worked.
Who was the most environmental prime minister we ever had when it came to actual policy, which is ironic when you think about his predecessor, Pierre Trudeau, who was an environmentalist in the way that he loved to canoe and hunt. Well, not hunt, but he was a naturist. And I don't mean that he was a nudist. I mean, the guy liked to spend time canoeing up in the bush. He loved the outdoors. And yet, who had the most successful policies when it came to protecting the environment? Brian Mulroney. Now, we're not going to talk about the envelopes of cash he walked away with, but, you know.
As Elizabeth May pointed out in our recent press conference.
Yeah, you know, that old...
When she was working from Mulroney's government, and she blew the whistle because there were things illegal going on, and sure enough, there were things illegal going on because people went to jail.
Yeah.
Oops. I could just imagine having Elizabeth May working on my team back then. It's like, I told you it was illegal, but did you listen? No. When are you guys going to learn? I don't lie.
No, she does not.
But everybody hates it because sounding.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I tell you. All right. What else do we have for you? So that's the financial stuff. Let me just take a look to see if the GDP numbers have indeed come out.
From our friend Charles Adler.
Yes.
He tweeted this yesterday, and I think it's so apropos. If a man knocked on my door to tell me that Pierre Elliott Trudeau and his son Justin Trudeau were Marxist, I would tell him to reproduce with a chicken. This man happens to be the occupant of Stornoway. And we of course know we showed this yesterday morning. I'm like, Charles, sir, my hat is off to you. That was perfection.
I like that. All right. More wildfire news, my friends. Two-thirds of Yellowknife's 20,000 residents still have no idea when they'll be able to return home. It was hoped that some evacuees could head back in time for the start of the school year, which has been delayed, as has the territorial election. It was scheduled, I believe, for October, and I think it's been pushed back a month until sometime in November. I'll try to get you a precise date later when I'm looking it up. Mayor Rebecca Alty explained that because right now they have a 5-phase re-entry program bringing people back, and they're in the third phase, which is, and she says, phase 3, the return of critical service staff had to be put on pause due to the fire in the South Slave impacting Highway 1. Premier Carolyn Cochrane is asking people for continued patience. I know it's hard. I know we all want answers, but again, we need to stress, please be patient. We're going to get you back as soon as it's safe to do so. But speaking of patience, Carolyn Cochrane is losing patience with the federal government. And we'll have more for that in future shows because there's a couple of things that I need to listen to where she's being interviewed, and I'll pick up some quotes from her. But the main thing is basically the imbalance when it comes to spending on infrastructure in Canada's north versus the south. She says that she asks, whose fault is it when we can't get people out because we don't have basic infrastructure that every Canadian takes for granted? There is one road out of the territory where the major fires. I don't know if there's only one road south out of the territory total. That I don't know. But where things are most there's only one road south out of the territory, Highway 1.
And of course, we have to talk about the convoy, the Freedom Convoy, who wants to go through the barricades that the RCMP have set up because, they're trying to protect them from dying. No, you can't tell us what to do. We're going there. We've barricaded this road for emergency vehicles to get through to help put out the wildfires. If you go there, you could die, and other people could die because you can prevent the emergency vehicles and the first responders from getting to their job. Well, we don't care. We live in the most informed time in history, and yet we are the stupidest we've ever been. It's willful ignorance.
Yep. There are people, they are, on the news, they were described as Yellowknife residents, but a lot of them with Alberta license plates.
Yeah, they're not Yellowknife residents.
Yeah.
Yellowknife residents know how difficult it is to live in that part of the world. They recognize, you're not going to get people from Yellowknife insisting on going back.
Yeah.
Because they're smart. Right?
Yeah. Now, there are 22 communities in the Northwest Territories that are without roads at all. Which kind of makes it hard to evacuate people and bring people back in.
Yeah, you have to fly in and out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can understand the Premier's concerns. And the Premier, I have to say, Carolyn Cochrane, I'm giving her 2 big thumbs up. She's doing an incredible job so far. Federal Minister of Emergency Preparedness, Harjit Sajjan, is on the record as saying, so there's going to be a much wider response in terms of recovery beyond just the response to the wildfire. So hopefully there's going to be a commitment to that. Edward Sangres of the Yellowknife Dene First Nation is quoted as saying, all hearts ache as we witness the devastation that has unfolded. In British Columbia, Bowen Ma, Emergency Management Minister, is on record as saying, in the northeastern regions, we are expected to continue to see unseasonably warm temperatures, smoke, and strong winds. This has led to previously in-control fires becoming out of control again and could lead to more extreme fire behavior. 4,200 people remain under evacuation orders in British Columbia, and another 65,000 are on alert to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. Wow, that's a lot of people who are affected.
Well, I was having a conversation with a friend about this last week, and we said 20,000 people were evacuated from Yellowknife, and he said, I heard it was 45,000. And I'm like, 45,000? that isn't that many people in Yellowknife. Then I did a little further reading, and it turns out 45,000 is the population of that territory.
Yes, of the territory.
Yes.
Of which 70% of people about it have been evacuated, 68 or 70%. Yeah.
Yes.
Now that surge of fire activity has paused the reentry plan to Yellowknife, weather's call for strong winds over the course of the weekend. And around Hay River, Highway 1, I'm not sure if it's still open. When I saw the news, it was in the South Slave region, but the highway is expected to close at some point during the weekend due to the fire activity that is going on at the moment. So,
we're living in the worst parts of the Old Testament. Fires, floods, mudslides. Where the plague of locusts? That's coming next, right? Remember that song from? It might have been from the 80s. Oceanfront Property in Arizona. Do you remember that song? I'll sell you an oceanfront property in Arizona. Well, that could be a real thing in a few years. At the rate we're going.
Yep, indeed.
That could be a real thing.
A couple of U.S. developments south of us. Forrest Grump has officially entered a not guilty plea in his Georgia case. He did it in advance, so he's not going to have to appear at his arraignment. Basically, an arraignment waiver. He faces 13 of his 91 charges in Georgia. Really interesting for a guy who's so innocent, who has all these reports, and who's going into an election. You'd really think he'd want to clear his name if he's really so that innocent before the election happens, so that people can vote for him knowing that it was indeed all a hoax. Look, see, look at what a witch I am. They were hunting me down. But he's not interested in that. For some reason, the world's most innocent man, the man on the planet throughout the entire history of humanity, who has done the least amount of things wrong,
according to him,
doesn't want a speedy trial to prove to the world that he has in fact done so much not wrong. That all his phone calls, every phone call he made in his life was a perfect phone call. Everyone.
Well,
even the one to Georgia asking for one more vote than we have.
Which is totally understandable.
Totally understandable. Right? It is nothing. We have a right to contest an election. Yeah, you do. Absolutely. And you did. And you lost. Not only did you lose the first midterms, not only did you lose your re-election bid, not only did your party lose the second midterms with you still leading it, even though you had already been rejected, and not only did you lose 55 times in court, you lost. You're a loser.
Yeah.
Big, fat, shaped like a milk bag loser who does not weigh 250 pounds and is not 6'3".
215.
Tú eres un pendedor. You're a loser, baby. Yep. So 13 of his 91 charges faced in Georgia, arraignment waiver. He doesn't want a speedy trial. The Kraken lady, Sidney Powell, and I believe it is John Eastman, if I'm remembering correctly, have asked for an early trial. No, it's not John Eastman. It's another person whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. Have asked for an early trial. Now, the guy asked first, and I wish I could remember his name. And then all of a sudden, Sidney Powell, who is the lawyer, said, "Hey, wait a minute. That's a good idea. I want in on that too," which made the other guy go, "Oh, God, not her. You're not helping me, lady," by joining my thing. Which led Fonnie Willis to say, wait a minute, Judge. You said that you could grant him an early trial, but does that mean he's severing his case from all the other cases? Or not? Because, anybody who wants to go early, I'm ready to go with all of them on October 23rd. Like this, but nothing in your order said anything about trials being severed. So while these two are applying to have their trial severed. You know who else applied to get his trial severed?
Who would that
The
be?
world's most innocent man.
Well, of course.
He wants
because,
his trial severed from the people who were going early on the 23rd because he is so innocent and so eager to prove it that he wants his trial. It's not the other people. Other people say, no, I'm severing my trial from yours. He's going, oh yeah, you're going to sever me. I'm severing you. I'm not going early. Screw that. So he's actually applied to sever his trial from the people who want to go early. He so does not want to go early. It's like, gee, nothing says take your time, Judge. Like, and interestingly, the trial in Georgia will not only be televised. The judge has ruled it will not only be televised. Oh no. Because the people, all of the people, are the victim. Because remember, one of the charge, right, is conspiracy against rights. The right to cast your vote and have it counted. So the victim is absolutely every single person in the United States who cast a vote.
Makes sense.
So
It's not unreasonable.
they all have a right to see the trial. Well, not everybody has cable. So the judge is not only making it available on TV, but he's going to live stream it via YouTube.
Oh, that's precious. I love that. I think that's the best thing. The best. That's the absolute best.
I could see the judge and I was like, just like sitting there, like on his order, like this with his pen. You wanted attention, motherfucker? Here, you got it. You're on YouTube.
Oh, you
Boom.
get it now. You're going to get it now.
God, I hope he gets it. I hope he gets it. How many people does he need? How many people does he need? How many boys? How many girls? How many people does he? Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Jazz hands. Okay.
I'm not familiar with that. Particular
from a chorus line at the audition where all the people are going, God, I hope I get it. How many people does he need? How many boys? How many girls?
I don't.
Yeah.
I know the film,
Yeah.
And I know that it was originally a play,
Yeah.
but I've never seen it.
One of the longest running Broadway musicals ever before it closed, along with Phantom. Really? Oh, yeah. Chorus Line was huge when it finally closed on Broadway. I think it was on like for 40 years or 30 years or something.
Oh, really?
Stopped. Yeah, when it closed. Yeah, finally.
Is Cats still on Broadway? Because I know everybody loves to chew that one. They love to shit on it. But I'm like, doesn't it have some good songs in it, though?
There's some good songs in it. Yep, absolutely. I don't know if Cats is still on Broadway yet.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, they had a movie. Remember the movie they had about a year ago?
No, I don't remember the movie because I was told really don't see it or else you're going to have to wash your eyes out with something.
Yeah, I was told it was really bad. I haven't seen it yet. Is it Purple Rain bad though? Because that's
see. So I'm sitting there. I was thinking like Dame Judi Dench put her name in for it, so I thought, my God, it can't be that bad. And apparently, it's
Idris Elba's in there.
Yeah, apparently,
James Corden,
Taylor Swift,
Swiftie. All
right. Speaking of accountability, Jen Whittle singing a chorus line. One singular sensation.
I know that
for it. Yeah, that's from Chorus Line too. My favorite one is Dance 10 Looks 3 though, from a Chorus Line. Dance 10 looks 3 and I'm still on unemployment, dancing for my own enjoyment. So I went out to get the doctor to get tits and ass, get the bingo bongos done. All of a sudden, I'm booking national tours.
Sorry, Jen. It's not that we hate Purple Rain. We love the music. Love the music because Prince was Prince. He was brilliant. It's just a really bad movie. It's a terrible movie. And I don't even say I hate it. I like the film, but it's really bad.
It's bad.
And I told a number of friends who decided they wanted to watch it right after he had died. And I'm like, oh, don't. You don't want to do that.
Yep.
They watched it and they came back and go, we really should have listened to you about that because we had these fond memories of this great movie. And then we watched it and went, oh my.
Yeah, you're not sitting down for Gone with the Wind or American Beauty or Schindler's List or a great piece of movie making and art.
It's a long form music video is basically what it is, with almost no plot and terrible acting.
No plot. Just go for the music. Forget what goes on between the songs, and you'll love it.
Exactly. You can just literally skip ahead on the DVD. Just go chapter ahead to the next song.
Jen vehemently disagrees. Watching Prince play a moody romantic lead is 100, 100, 100. Let your freak flag fly.
Well, okay, though, but here's this. Oh,
We
it's
support you.
terrible, but I love it.
We
Okay,
support your
so
love.
that's,
We support your love.
as long as you recognize how bad it is.
Now, speaking of consequence culture, it's like, hello,
Look, here come the
welcome to consequence culture. If you keep driving down the road 2 miles and look to the left, you'll find I Don't Give a Fuck Motel. Please check in there. On January 6th, a man named Joseph Biggs was one of the leaders
Yeah.
of the insurrection for the Proud Boys. He posed for pictures inside the Senate chambers, and when it was over outside the Capitol, he also posted on his cell phone bragging, "Yay, so we just stormed the Capitol. January 6th will be a day in infamy." Like this. Federal prosecutors wanted a 33-year sentence. The judge would not go that far, but sentenced him to 17 years for seditious conspiracy, which is the second longest sentence given so far. The longest one was 18. Now, the Department of Justice has decided to appeal those first sentences as being not enough. So I have a feeling these ones will be as well. The other person, Zachary Rail, was sentenced to 15 years. We're still waiting for, there'll be some sentences announced today and, Monday and Tuesday of next, some today and Monday, I think, of next week as well, Tuesday. They're being sentenced at different times, but the big one is Enrique Tarrio, the leader, who was requested 30 to 33 years, and we'll see what happens with him. But I have a feeling that these are also going to be appealed as not being long enough. Now, 1,100 cases have... Pardon?
Oh, yeah, not long enough. I get you.
Not long enough. No. 1,100 cases have resulted from the insurrection before the sentence was announced. And Biggs openly wept in court, asking for leniency, going, something like, "I know I messed up, but I'm not a terrorist." Well, on that day, you were.
You were,
Blanche.
actually. You actually were. You guys had planned to unalive people.
Yep. On that day, you were. On that day, you were.
So he gets this. He gets this, right?
Yep.
Look, here comes the consequence. Consequences of my actions chasing me right now. I don't want no consequence. I don't want no consequences chasing me right now. Someone take this consequence. Someone take this consequence chasing me right now. She said consequence. She said the consequence chasing me right now.
That is a classic, right?
Yep. That PNC
It's a classic.
Crying like a tough guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, remember
please,
James Bowder?
Sorry?
James Bowder, when he was on the stand during the POEC, and he was saying, he calls Justin Trudeau Justine, makes fun of him all the time, tries to effeminate him, and then the next minute, he's weeping on the stand because he's a big, tough alpha male. Like, come on, man. Like, come on. And I don't have a problem with men crying. I do it all the time. I don't have an issue with that. But don't tell me how big and strong and tough and scary you are, and then weep at the mention of something that gets you emotional. While you compared the prime minister of this country, you tried to feminize and make him effete because he's a feminist, and he wept over Gord Downey's death. And but again, it boils down to rules for thee, not for me, right? It's that same old, well, it's okay when I do it, but when he does it, it sucks.
Yep. Pretty much. And so those are keeping on going. But the moment we up here above the meth lab have been waiting for is coming, kiddies. September 5th is a very, very, very important day for us here at the Beaver Lodge, because on September 5th, according to CTV, The leaders of the Freedom Convoy are preparing to answer to criminal charges next week for their part in the massive demonstration that gridlocked Ottawa last year. But the stakes go way beyond the actions of two protest organizers. Tamara Leach and Chris Barber were among the most prominent organizers of the protest movement that rolled into Ottawa early in 2022, and they're scheduled to be the first members of the organizing committee to stand trial on September 5th. But that is not where the scrutiny will stop. Oh, no. Lawrence Greenspan, the lawyer representing Litch, told the court earlier this summer that the focus should be on the case at hand. Quote, "This should not be the trial of the Freedom Convoy," he said. Oh, but in a way it will be.
Okay.
I mean, yes, it's going to be the trial of Tamara Litch, but it's the trial of the convoy.
Look,
because we didn't really get it at the Public Order Emergency Commission now, did we?
No. And I will give her this. She does have a right to counsel.
Absolutely. The best counsel she can get. I want her to have the best counsel she gets, because Wednesday she gets fried. She'll have nothing to complain about.
Well, and she does have the best counselor available. Lawrence Greenspan is a brilliant lawyer who rarely loses.
He will.
I mean, and he also likes to take on cases that will have him front and center in the media.
Yes. That's what this one is.
It's true. He does that. And he's doing this pro bono because
everybody deserves a zealous defense. But I think his thing, too, is the same thing like this. No, girl, you're not getting some like this. I'm going to give you the best reputation because you go into jail and you need to earn it.
Yeah. Well,
I think he's doing the country a service here, Greenspan.
You need a lawyer. He's the guy to call. And I don't say that lightly. I mean that with 100% sincerity. He's the guy to call if you find yourself in hot water. Now this is in the Ottawa area, right? And I'm not taking away from any sponsors of the Crier Media Network. I'm just saying, in Ottawa, that's the guy you call.
Yep,
he's a damn good lawyer.
Absolutely. Even so, University of Ottawa criminologist Michael Kempa, which is a name we've heard a lot also during the time, said the attention paid to the trial could mean that Canadian institutions will also be judged for how the case is handled and the precedent it could set. The organizers of the Freedom Convoy set out to oppose COVID-19 restrictions in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government. Thousands of people refused to leave downtown Ottawa for 3 weeks, with local leaders calling it an occupation, while others blockaded several U.S. border crossings. And it is also the event that led to us coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. So thank you, Convoy people. You did one thing good. You made this guy mad. Thanks, eh? Oh, man. Justice Paul Rouleau, who led a public inquiry into the decision, called it a singular moment in history. The convoy exposed a stark divide in Canada, Kempa said, between, quote, the significant degree of people who support and sympathize with the protesters and those who were lock, stock, and barrel completely against it. And this is when and this at a time when faith in institutions is waning, Kempa said. A recent Statistics Canada survey found that only 45.8% of Canadians reported a high level of confidence in the justice system and courts in the final quarter of 2022. Litch and Barber are facing charges of mischief, obstructing police, counseling others to commit mischief, and intimidation. Both say the protest was an organic movement with no clear leader. That may or may not be so, but that still doesn't absolve your actions posed as an individual during the context of the protest, whether there was a leader or not, whether you were the leader or not. Because you did stuff, the stuff was illegal, you pay.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you were just following orders or whether you decided to do it proactively on your own. You did it.
Huh?
The actions came from your person. You are responsible for them.
You earned it.
So, yeah. Keith Wilson, the lawyer who represented Litch during the process, said the court system has already failed its first test. Of course you'd say that. Go home. We ain't got time for it. We don't want to hear it. So, at the most recent bail
Nobody got time for that.
Yeah, the Crown argued that if Litch is found guilty, she could face a jail sentence of up to 10 years, but Superior Court Justice Andrew Goodman said Litch may have already spent more time in pretrial custody as a presumptively innocent person than she would have served if she was convicted and sentenced. I don't think so. Not more. No. if she's convicted, the sentence she's got to get is not going to be that lenient. They took people hostage for 4 weeks and submitted them to proven torture techniques. They vandalized a city. They stopped people with serious health conditions from getting to their medical apartments. They stopped people with severe disabilities. They basically kept them prisoners in their own apartments, and some of them had no place to go to escape noise at all. Remember we heard that story about that one woman that the only place that she could go to get some kind of relief was in her bathroom?
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So, yeah, I don't think so. University of Ottawa law professor Yao Veloso says mischief is a minor infraction that in many cases does not result in jail time. But as we have said many times on this show, there are two types of mischief.
Mm-hmm.
There's mischief causing damage to property less than $5,000. And then there's mischief causing damage to property over $5,000 and potentially causing bodily harm to
We're
other
not talking
people.
Frat boy mischief, which is what
We're not
people
talking
think.
Yeah, we're not talking
Mischief
about
is a
spray painting something
serious
like that.
charge in this country, a very serious charge. But you can do up to 20 years for mischief.
Yeah. Veloso suggested the result of the trial won't have much of an effect on how future protests are handled. Ottawa police responded in an atypical way compared to other wide-scale protests, such as those that happened in Toronto, when Toronto hosted the G20 summit in 2010, which wasn't good. They did not handle that well. I'm old enough to remember they did not handle that well. And the 2012 student demonstrations over tuition hikes in Quebec, which also were not handled well. That led to Charest losing his government because he thought he could just come out and says, well, they're only kids. Let's take away their rights.
Oopsie.
Yeah. If there's one province you don't mess with students, it's Quebec. They have the most organized student body politic in the entire nation by far. Like, just it's no province even comes even close to comparing. He picked the wrong ones, and his political career has never recovered.
No.
Never recovered.
Well, and let's you said something interesting there. It's like, well, they're only kids, right? What rights do they have? Slight pivot, very slight pivot when it comes down to parental rights that PP keeps going on about, and Stephen Lecce and a bunch of conservative people. That's not something enshrined in our charter.
Nope.
It's not enshrined. The parental rights is not a thing. It's not a thing.
And grandparent rights are even less of a thing.
So stop talking about it because it's not a thing. You don't believe me? Go and review the charter. It's not in there.
Nope.
It's not in there. And matter of fact, I read a paper written by a lawyer about that just the other day, talking about how, no, it's not a thing. It is literally not a thing. You, as a parent, you have certain dominion over your children, of course. You are responsible to keep them safe and clothed and fed. But you don't have rights to make them live the life the way you want them to. Their rights are the same as yours, and they are enshrined in the charter for every living, breathing Canadian.
Mm-hmm. Like the child and youth advocate from New Brunswick reminded us, quote, the parent has a right to teach their values to a child. The parent does not have a right to a state apparatus to force the child to live by their values.
Exactly.
They are not mini yous.
Nope.
They are
so
whole.
PP can go.
They are
urinate up a rope.
Yeah, they are whole, full people, individuals in their own right, by virtue of the fact that they exist outside of your body.
PNC bio. My kid isn't learning the devil's math.
Willie smoking the devil's lettuce.
Just a footnote there. The numbers they teach in school for the maths that they teach in school, those are Arabic numerals.
We're going to turn them all into little terrorists.
The amount of people that freak out when they say, "Did you know that they're teaching Arabic numerals in school?" What? Oh my God, we can't have that. And yeah, they're the numbers you might be familiar with. They start at 0 and go up from there. Algebra. Yeah, that's Muslim clerics who did that. Mathematics, modern mathematics. That's from Islam, people. Our current numbering system, like in the year 2023 or 2023, Arabic numerals, my friends.
Arabic numerals.
So,
yep. We are just wild people. Wild people.
Well, this is a good statement here from Linda. She's like, so Ellen says, I'll put this on the screen, children are not your property, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Linda comes back with, as opposed to fetuses who they want to have rights.
Ooh.
Right?
Oh, snap.
Children don't have rights, but the fetus does.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting how that works, right?
Ooh, hot. Oh, I am so stealing that. And I'm not guaranteeing I'm giving you credit because I want to look smart. Oh, man. Someone served some tea.
Yeah.
Damn.
Once again, PNC Bio with the zingers.
Terrorist math? Not in my Canada. PNC Bio has a little bit of that Dorothy Spornak wit.
Yes.
That's really dry. You have to stop and think about it for a second. It's like you're joking, right? Oh my God. Fetuses really just need to pull themselves up by the cord straps.
Rights for parents and fetuses, but not women. Yeah. That's a good one, James. I got to give you that one.
I'm going to hell.
Sorry, that's funny. It's funny. I mean,
Oh man. Okay. We were talking about 24 Sussex the other day. A little tidbit here. There's a group of heritage-minded architects and construction managers that have come forward with a plan to save 24 Sussex itself.
Cool.
While the federal government is considering building a new estate to serve as the official residence, a report suggested it would cost more than $36 million to repair it. Sorry, my chair just went down and I just got 5 inches shorter, so I'm going to fix that.
I hate when that happens.
There we go. But the group's historic Ottawa development says renovation could be done much, much, much cheaper. And I had an article on that for some reason, and it kind of closed on me.
See what we need to do. And I'm not the first to suggest this. I've read other people suggest this, and I'm like, I think that would be an interesting idea. You should get Mike Holmes and his crew come in and renovate 24 Sussex.
And put it all on TV.
Make a television show out of it, right?
Yep.
I think, and people would watch.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because it would be fascinating. Now, there'd be areas they're like, well, we can't show you this, obviously.
Yes.
There'd be certain things that they couldn't show you that would be off. But other areas they could certainly show you. It's a renovation.
Yep. So a group called HODI, Historic Ottawa Development Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization. HODI.
I know that wasn't the lyric, but it fit, right?
It does fit, yeah. A nonprofit organization that includes noted architects, conservationists, and project managers with a track record of saving heritage properties from demolition says it can't stomach the idea of a 150-year-old building being abandoned as the Prime Minister's official residence. They maintain that the home has been at the center of national political life for generations and shouldn't be relegated to the dustbin of history. I understand that point. But it's moldy and it's a rat dump.
Well, here's the thing. You don't need to tear it down. You can do a complete gut and renovation.
Yep.
Like literally you tear out all the interior walls except for those that are structurally supporting. You clean it and redo it from top to bottom. It's doable.
Yeah. Now,
and it should be preserved.
Mark Dennis, who's the president of HODI and a past member of the Official Residences Advisory Committee at the NCC, so he knows what he's talking about, believes that the report on the home state of decay have been exaggerated and the suggested price tag to fix the place is out of step with industry norms for a renovation project of this scale. Now, there probably is a ton of premiums being charged for anybody who would want to do a renovation project on that because it is a one-of-a-kind project.
Yes.
Yep. NCC report in 2021 concluded the residence is in critical condition and estimated the cost to complete deferred maintenance at more than $36 million. The report set the home's current replacement value at $40.1 million. It could be done for a lot less money if you know how to kick the tires, and we have people who know how to kick the tires, Dennis says. He said the option of commandeering land in Ottawa's Rockcliffe Park for a new home, floated by the government sources, would be more expensive than fixing up the current Gothic Revival-style home to modern standards. Quote, don't compare us to Jesus Christ, compare us to the alternative, and the alternative is kicking out park goers and putting a glass box in the middle of parkland. There's an apparent assumption that it's going to be so much more economical to snatch up parkland and start from scratch. We don't think that's true. And they have an image here that I will share. It's a rendering, so clearly not a photograph of what the new official wing and rehabilitated residence would look like. So they'd have the residence at right, and they'd build this new wing here.
That's between the main building and the pool house.
Yep.
Which the pool house was put in the early 70s when Justin's father, Pierre, was prime minister. And there's a tunnel that connects the main house to the pool house. I've walked through that tunnel, and I've been in the pool house. And somebody said, why did we build him a pool? Because he used to swim every day. And, as the prime minister going a few blocks down the street to the public baths on King Edward wouldn't be inconvenient for everybody there, because they'd have to shut it down while he did his laps. And taken away from the public, which is not good, and a security nightmare. And whereas this is right on his residence, it makes perfect sense. And it's an indoor pool, so that you can use it year round, which again makes perfect sense. It's a beautiful, the pool house is beautiful. It looks like something from the late 60s, early 70s. And it went in, I think in 72 or 73. I can't remember exactly when it went in. But it's beautiful. It really is. It's fitting for the area because it's stone on the outside. It looks like it belongs there.
Right.
And the interior is like, it's dark, and it's mahogany, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Now, as Kit P,
I didn't get to take photos, but
as Kit PNC Bio says in the chat, isn't part of the problem location? Yes. Jean-Yves Bourdois, former RCMP officer, mentioned that was the main thing. It's not only about rebuilding it to proper standard. Now, while PP was mentioning yesterday that the prime minister only needs a basic place where he can entertain a couple of things, that may have heating in the winter. If the prime minister of the day really needs that, while he's living in a 19-room place where he just had like this huge, massive garden party where he invited tons of people as the leader of the opposition, right?
Why didn't they make hay out of that when they made hay out of having a lobster roll and some mussels in Prince Edward Island, promoting small businesses in Prince Edward Island, the actual definition of her job.
Well, when liberals do their job, that's bad.
Well, apparently.
It's a bad thing.
Donut Gate. Remember how they lost their shit over Justin Trudeau buying donuts?
Well, I'm thinking they should make this the thing. It's like, heaven forbid Rishi Valdez should go to Alberta and eat a steak.
Oh, my God.
With mushrooms.
Oh, my dear Lord. Yeah, she should go to a small family farm in Alberta and have steak and mushrooms.
Then she should
let's see them lose their shit.
Then she should go to Newfoundland.
Just suggesting.
Yeah.
Just suggesting.
And then she should go to Newfoundland and have some Toutons. And then Nova Scotia and have some Donators.
Yes.
And then go to New Brunswick and, hey, more lobster rolls over there. And then have some poutine in Quebec or the Tortillère de Lac-Saint-Jean and have some beaver tails. And
both.
Yeah, and have some beaver tails in Ottawa and some Nanaimo bars in BC and some Saskatoon berry pie and some bannock and pemmican elsewhere. And I'm
getting hungry.
Yeah, just travel the country, eat food.
Yeah, and see them make hay out of it.
And watch conservative minds melt. Gotta
Well,
do potatoes if you need.
again, the whole donut gate was the one that really, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? He bought from a small Canadian business, B, one that employs people and pays them a living wage, and C, promoting a Canadian company by doing so.
Donuts were woke, though.
Oh,
He bought.
they weren't from a big
donuts
multinational conglomeration owned by a company out of Brazil.
that wants to exploit people and maybe reduce the working age.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Right, that's
And
the
have everybody
conservative
coming
way.
on
My bad.
unpaid internships.
My bad. Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. I got I don't know what I don't know what I was thinking.
Don't worry. So, but while Poilievre is saying that the prime minister just needs like a little basic shack, maybe with heating, running water would be nice, indoor plumbing, maybe, right? Den has said what the prime minister needs is a respectable home worthy of a G7 leader with space for family and rooms to host smaller affairs of state. Interesting that the person that, what was it again that was said in the article? The president of HODI and past member of the Official Residences Advisory Committee at the National Capital Commission. You know what? I'm going to rely on his opinion on what the prime minister actually needs is living space rather than some guy who gets paid to hate on him every day.
Yeah.
I think PP's word for it, or the guy that used to work in the thing. Oh, I don't know. Oh, there.
Oh yeah, that's heavily weighted towards the fellow
Sorry.
who used to work there. He would know.
Sorry, I fell over. So much weight on one side. So yeah.
I'll get my coffee. I'll be right back.
Okie dokie. There we go. Mark Brandt, a senior conservation architect at Trace, an Ottawa firm that has worked on the retrofits, which is the design that we showed you. It was done by them. He's worked on retrofits of prominent heritage buildings like Parliament's East Block and the Sir John A. Macdonald building before. He says that all this talk of demolishing a historic building, it's crazy. The residents can be saved and it can be rehabilitated. There's no reason to lose the history or the gravitas of the place. So I can understand that. Again, he continues, you can do a completely modern, super secure, net zero carbon emissions addition. It can be a friendly next door neighbor to the existing building, which as part of our proposal can be fully restored on this spectacular site. However, as Kit PNC Bio mentioned, security concerns are what's motivating the government to consider other sites for the official residence. The existing home is relatively close to the street, which poses a risk given the real threats the Prime Minister has already faced while in office. Now, the people that are redesigning these for this purpose here says that those risks can be mitigated. The home's location atop a cliff and surrounded by water on three sides is already ideal from a security standpoint, he says. That may or may not be true because now we have drones. Right. The home's neighbors, the French embassy and the Governor General's residence seem to be quite happy with the security situation. Security is a challenge, but I also think it's a red herring. We have great minds who've dealt with this before and they can do it again. I can see how the issue of security could be used as a pretext to put front and center to create an undeniable or irrefutable argument for going another way. I do see that. I don't have enough data and there's not enough publicly known that way. So at this moment, I remain being able to be convinced that maybe they don't need a location change, but part of me would consider at first blush that these concerns that the location may not need to be changed may not be factoring in advancements in technologies like drones and all those types of things that could cause additional security issues or things that have a greater launch ability that you could maybe launch from the water below and maybe still reach the target. I don't know. Like this is way above my pay grade. I certainly I'm not a how to destroy the world expert. It's not like I sit at home at night trying to figure out new devious ways to do that. Other than by it's not like
I don't know.
I spend evenings stroking my goatee going, how can I make the world worse for certain people today? It's just my brain is not hardwired that way. But So I will wait to hear more from experts on either side. I'm okay with either option. To be totally honest, if they're able to renovate it and maintain the history and the historic nature, and keep stuff there and make it comfortable, make it acceptable, make it so that we're not a laughing stock, and keep it secure, fine, do it in the same place. But if it really is security, then let's just do that, because what we've seen over the last couple of years is very, very, very disturbing. And if we can proactively get ahead of it, I have no problem with that. I'm quite happy with Canada being a nation that for the longest time hasn't had a leader assassinated.
Yeah, I'm
good with that.
one.
I would like that trend to continue. Thank you very much. Whether I like the leader or not, I'm good living with a country where we do not assassinate our leaders in order to solve our problems. So
even when we don't like the leader, I don't believe that we should be doing that sort of thing.
No.
It's democracy dies when that happens.
Yeah. So if you're doing, doesn't matter how good your reason is, if you're doing a bad thing, you're betraying yourself.
It's still bad. Yeah, it's still bad.
It's still bad. Some not so fun. Actually, you know what? Before we move to the not so fun news, you had something that you wanted to mention about building homes, particularly in Alberta, because yesterday it was, Doug Ford is still giving regular press conferences. It seems that there's one a day now. And as we mentioned, every time he's making an announcement relative to anything having to do with housing, it's just a reminder of all the corruption. So I'm not sure this tack that he's on is going to work for him. Now, they're still trying to wait it out. Like, I think that some person made a comment yesterday. It's like, can you see the look on Doug Ford's face? It's like he can't believe that people are actually holding his feet to the fire on this one. It's like, come on, guys, haven't you let this go already? You always let stuff go. Why don't you let it go?
Didn't he post a veiled threat towards Colin DeMello?
I
know, Colin, you live just down the street in a lovely home.
Yeah. What is this thing with conservatives wanting to show people's homes? PP goes to the tent city the first time to do his drug video, films people's homes.
Yeah.
Then he does another housing announcement and then basically doxes some woman in Niagara and basically makes her address available and tells journalists to go look at it. Then we have that thing with that Photoshop tent. Again, people living in misery, and they put on something on top of that. And now he's... What the hell, man?
I don't know. But this is the document. I'm going to put this on. Pardon me. I'm going to put this on the screen for a few seconds, and then I'll read it because it's relatively long-winded, and for the audio folks, you'll need to hear it. And I'm not going to have it on the screen the whole time, so that's why I'm going to read it to you. But I'll put it up right now. This is from the Auditor General's report. Greenbelt change is not necessary to achieve government housing targets. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Wow. Like, holy crap. Like, so what you're saying is what we've been saying all along, that what Dougie's trying to do.
What does the document say? The people listening at home want to hear.
Well, I'm pulling it up right now so I can read it. Give me a second. It takes a few seconds to load. This is what was found. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, in parentheses, Housing Ministry, had already allocated the entirety of the 1.5 million unit housing target to municipalities in October 2022, 1 month before the government's proposal to remove land from the Greenbelt. The government and the Housing Ministry... The government and the Housing Ministry did not have evidence that removing land from the Greenbelt was needed to meet the government's housing goals. Ontario's Housing Affordability Task Force determined that a shortage of land was not the cause of the province's housing challenges, and that the Greenbelt and other environmentally sensitive areas must be protected. Chief planners in the regions of Durham, Hamilton, and York, which are home to all 15 sites removed from the Greenbelt,
told us that Greenbelt land was not needed to meet the housing targets assigned to them by the Housing Ministry, and that there is sufficient land outside the Greenbelt in their regions that is already or easily serviced.
Do go
The
on.
Regional Planning Commissioners of Ontario, a group of senior municipal planning leaders from across Ontario, stated it does not support the removal of lands from the Greenbelt as a necessary step to address Ontario's housing needs.
AKA, that fucker Doug Ford is lying to you.
He's a lying sack of shit.
He's smiling at you, slapping you on the back, calling you friends and folks, and lying to you. Handing you a burger and
A
your beer on
lying
a
sack.
podcast. Holy crap. And speaking about lying liars and the lies they tell, the housing minister, Steve Clark. Yes. Welcome to two-tiered Ontario. Those who attend Ford's daughter's wedding and those who didn't. That's Theo, our friend Theo Moudakis. Yesterday it was Steve Clark's turn.
Oh, I have that.
Yes.
I
And-
have that. It's loaded, ready to go.
Yeah,
I'll put
so-
it on the screen.
You got that. There's one quote that he remembered that was at the end of it that just was there, but it was like he ended with, as a government, we're going to continue to do two things. We're going to obviously continue to move forward again, that move forward. Can you please just drop this? We want to move forward.
Stop it.
Well, of course you want to move forward. You're in up to do something illegal up to your freaking eyeballs and maybe even up to the eyebrows, allegedly. So as a government, we're going to continue to do two things. We're going to obviously continue to move forward because we're still in a housing supply crisis, which you're doing nothing to solve because you can't build on those lands for about 25 years. But anyway, as the chief planner from the Durham region mentioned, but we need to ensure that the public trust and confidence is restored. Oh, sister, girl, honey, girlfriend, muffin, cupcake, poodle, that ship has sailed. That ship is right now. You sound like the guy from Hockey Canada saying, I deserve a chance to try and fix the system that I created, in which I allowed money from our fund to be separated into 3 other funds so people didn't think that we had so much money. And then I took the kids' registration fees and used it to buy off people's silence because people have been sexually assaulted and gang raped. But I deserve a chance to fix it. It's like, yeah, I'm the housing minister that allowed my boss, the premier, to like have his office or himself pinpoint something, and I took him into my place, and yeah, we just gave the most important file, and I decided to create a system where I would have absolutely no supervisory input whatsoever, and well, that just happened to lead to the largest transfer of wealth from the government to a corporation in Canadian history, about $8.3 billion in those days money, which is pretty much evaluated now, according to Orbit Studios, which is one of those follow at Orbit Studios at Twitter, about $25 billion really in today's terms. Just handing over $25 billion. And yeah, this is, again, like we said, the integrity commissioner did not seem like, yes, there was lack of oversight. Why was there lack of oversight? Oh, that he didn't seem to. There was lack of oversight because you designed the system in this way, because you knew you were doing something illegal, allegedly, and you designed the system so that you would not have any oversight. So if people ask you questions, you can turn around and say, I didn't know about this. There was no oversight. Why? Because you wanted it to be so.
Yeah.
You do not get to create a system where there is no oversight, where $25 billion in assessed provincial wealth gets transferred from the citizenry to 2 of your friends. Well, 6 really, but most of it, 92% of it, to 2 of your friends.
We have to be careful in our verbiage here. And here's where I'm going with this.
Sorry,
because
your people that were your friends when they came to attend your wedding who are not your friends.
No, not what I mean. Not what I mean. Here's where I'm saying we need to be careful in our verbiage. Because even the Mike Greiner, sorry. Is it Greiner or Schreiner? Schreiner, thank you. Even he's saying the thing, and I'm like, this is not factually correct. Okay. The people of Ontario deserve accountability after today's report from Integrity Commissioner David J. Wake confirms that Housing Minister Steve Clark contravened the Members' Integrity Act by failing to oversee the corrupt process that saw a handful of wealthy, well-connected insiders make $8.3 billion on the sale of Greenbelt lands. Here's where the issue is. Nobody's made that money yet.
No.
That's the valuation. That is the valuation of the lands from 2016, 8.3 billion.
Yep.
Nobody actually has received a penny of that money.
Right.
And it's important that we drive that message home.
Yep.
Right? Nobody's received a penny of that money.
But
that 8.3 billion is what the lands were valuated at in 2016.
But,
now they're up to 25 billion.
But the fact that nobody has received the money, it's the same thing, right? You try to rob a bank just because you leave without $1 doesn't mean you didn't try to rob a bank.
Exactly. Like it's still
how successful you are doesn't matter. It's that you tried. It's that you tried. It's like obstruction of justice. Whether you were successful in obstructing justice or not doesn't matter. It's the fact that you even tried. That's the crime. You don't need to be successful.
No.
Yes, Doug Ford is the fat Tony of Merriquimbees, indeed. So, yeah, Steve Clark seems to think that, and Doug Ford seemed to think if they keep on going up and saying, well, we had to build homes and we're here for the people and we still have a housing crisis. So everything that's going on, forget that. We're just going to move forward. And that's going to do it for them. Now, the thing with this that really, really disturbs me is we have a situation now where the Minister of Housing needs to go. Absolutely needs to go because he knows things. Things that he says he doesn't know, he knows because he made it such that he couldn't know because he knew what it is that he shouldn't know beforehand, right? So he made it such that he couldn't know it, allegedly. If this guy goes, Ford goes for sure eventually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So they're really trying to focus on blaming this on Amato at the moment. But right now, we have a situation right now where the Minister of Housing technically now is the premier of the province. Because he's, like that song, The Sweater, he's got dirt on Dougie, and though he would not say it, he's not the type of person he say it, but he's going to carry this with him to his grave. But if he did, it would be like 8-cent Gloriola.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a housing minister who can now make the premier dance to whatever tune he's calling in order to keep his secret. This is not acceptable.
No.
This is not acceptable. Steve Clark right now is the de facto premier because he's got Ford by the short and curlies. You don't want to go down? You keep me safe and I keep my mouth shut because if I tell him what I know, you're coming down with me too.
And eventually
dance for me, Doug.
Going to go.
Dance for me, Doug. This is not acceptable. This is not sustainable. This cannot stand. Yeah, please go ahead. Read it, Mr. Grizzly, what Dan had to say.
Doug admitted on camera that the chief's resignation went through his office. He knew about that, but didn't know about an $8.3 billion deal? Tell Dougie Dan Trays is here.
Dumbass.
Did I say your name correctly? Did I say your name correctly, Dan? Trays? I want to pronounce it correctly.
They've got to go. They cannot be allowed to hold on and just like, gee, folks, we got to build houses. Their way through this.
We just got to keep leaning on them for it.
Now, fortunately, again, as I mentioned, blood in the water, and the journalists love the taste of blood, so it seems that they're keeping on it. Like Doug Ford even tried the Danielle Smith look a couple of times. Didn't work for him.
No. This is the one that's going to bring him down. And here's the thing: it's going to be now to use, but I'm going to use the term because it fits grassroots movement. But here's why I hate that term: grassroots movement. Democracies are built by people like us, the average ordinary citizen who votes. We are the democracy. We have the power. We just need to remind Doug that he works for every single person in the province of Ontario. We're his boss, all 16 million of us. Well, we're just shy of 16 million, right? 16 million of us. We're his boss. He works for us. Even though he doesn't like a lot of us, he's still our employee. He's not a servant. He is a public servant, yes. He does work for the public. He is our employee. We are his boss. We need to remind him of this and continue to hold his feet to the fire over this until we finally get this man, this corrupt wannabe mob boss, out of office.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's us. We
He's
will
going
bring
down
him
for
down.
this.
And we will do it in the correct manner by continuing to drive home the questions. Where's the money, Doug? Where's the money, Doug? Where's the money, Doug? Wait a minute, $450 million for an underground parking garage for a for-profit? What? People aren't focusing on that one enough. We need to keep the spotlight in two areas. Ontario Place and how he's destroying it, and the Greenbelt and how he's destroying that. Some of the best farmland, by the way, on planet Earth.
Yep. Now, Amanda Pfeffer from CBC, who's been doing some great journalism on this, says that in a tweet here, she has a thread. Ontario Integrity Commissioner gives us a look at the government minister's mandate letter, a document journalists have fought to see via freedom of information. It shows how the housing minister saw his marching orders. Commish David Wake writes, quote, 27 days after his party was re-elected in Ontario, Premier Doug Ford sent a letter to Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, outlining the priorities for the ministry in the coming term. This June 29, 2022 mandate letter provided a lengthy to-do list, including a key direction about Ontario's Greenbelt. In fall 2022, this is a quote specifically from the letter here now, not just the report. In fall 2022, complete work to codify processes for swaps, expansions, contractions, and policy updates for the Greenbelt. In addition, conduct a comprehensive review of the mandate of the Greenbelt Council and Greenbelt Foundation. This should include a comprehensive plan to expand and protect the Greenbelt. This was a significant policy shift since the government had spent the past 4 years stating that it would not open up any lands in the Greenbelt for development. Minister Clark shared the mandate letter list with his deputy minister, his interim chief of staff, and then with his newly appointed chief of staff, Ryan Amato. So put your hands all over the Greenbelt and fill it up and grab it by the Kit Kat. Was actually in the mandate letter, the 2022 mandate letter. We still haven't seen the previous ones yet. Ontario Integrity Commissioner writes, Clark failed to properly oversee the process. Quote, consistent with the analysis under Section 3.2 of the Act above, the actions of Mr. Amato in driving the process must be attributed to Minister Clark. The minister himself made 3 errors which contributed to the improper result of the process. First, he misinterpreted the Greenbelt item in the mandate letter with respect to what was expected and by when. Okay. So, in other words, he can't read. His basic English reading comprehension skills suck. He found a way to read that little note and interpret it in the way that he did. That resulted in 8.3 in 26 numbers, now $25 billion in value being transferred to principally 2 friends who made generous donations at the Stag and Dough. So, first he misinterpreted the Greenbelt item in the mandate letter with respect to what was expected and by when, which led Mr. Amato to embark on a rushed process with unfortunate results by design. And the results were not unfortunate for the people who cashed in.
No, that worked out well.
They were actually ridiculously fortunate, actually. Unfortunate for the people, but very, very fortunate for the 6 people, 2 in particular. Who got the plots of land. By recommending specific properties for removal and specific lands to replace the removals in fall 2022, Minister Clark went far beyond what the mandate letter asked him to do. which was to, quote, complete work to codify processes for swaps. So the swaps weren't actually supposed to be completed now. There was only supposed to be a design of a process that could lead. Well, in the time that he designed the processes, had Amato set up a whole entire staff outside, got the documents, approved them, sent them to the cabinet table where they gave it tons of study, wink, before approving it. Because we're supposed to believe as well, right, that they did oversee the process at any time, didn't ask any questions and supervise anything, that the document came to the cabinet table, and I don't know, the 1 hour or 3 hours they met at the cabinet table was enough to analyze all of that and decided that this was a go and that there was nothing wrong and no questions came about. And during that meeting at the cabinet table, nobody in cabinet asked at some point, did anybody supervise any of this work somewhere along the way? No. We're supposed to believe that just happened that way. If Minister Clark had a better understanding of his direction in the mandate letter, well, whose fault is that? That would be the Premier's, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And interesting that Minister Clark gets that mandate letter, reads it once, gets an interpretation, and decides not to have a talk with his own boss. Did I get it right? I read what you wrote. This is what I understood. Is this what you want? No, just I read it once, and okay, this must be what he wants. Let's go make it happen. Hey, you do this, and when it's done, let me know. On their number one priority file, the one that they kept hush hush for the first 4 years, because the first time they mentioned it, people didn't react. But then, hey, all of a sudden they had a big distraction with people dying with COVID and all that kind of stuff, and people getting upset and mad and angry and throwing rocks at the Prime Minister when he goes stop. So hey, this is a good time to slide it in.
I have a breaking news story for you in a moment or two.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
just let me know when you're ready. This is going to knock your socks off.
Okay. So he misunderstands the letter, accidentally, on purpose, allegedly. Then she goes on. Deputy Minister, Municipal Affairs and Housing, Kate Manson-Smith, is pressed by the Ontario Integrity Commissioner about how Mr. Amato selected properties for this project. She said she believed done in some capacity with the Premier's office, which appears in meeting notes. Typed notes taken by Ministry of, quote, typed notes taken by Ministry official at the October 21st, 2022 meeting with Mr. Amato also bring to attention that 3 sites are included that weren't on any list. And Ryan, 3 additional files were given straight from the Premier. I confirmed with the note taker that this official made these notes at the time, and that these are words that this official believed were said by the speakers at the time. The official acknowledged it was possible that Mr. Amato mentioned the Premier's office, but explained that if he had, the official would have written PO, which is a short form of it used for the Premier's office, as set out above. PO is not used in that particular note. Another ministry official advised they recalled being told files had been given straight from the Premier, but they did not recall which ones. The typed notes and the meeting documents indicate the 3 new items were Block 41 in Vaughan, Sulphur Springs Road in Hamilton, and Flato View properties in Nobleton. When asked about this note about files being given straight from the Premier, Mr. Amato said, quote, "That is not true. The Premier never gave me any of those files." Good puppy. I asked Premier Ford to respond to this evidence, suggesting he had put forward these 3 properties. He denied directing Mr. Clark or any staff to remove or include any specific property in the Greenbelt, and advised he is not in any way familiar with the 3 sites. I am the Premier of the province. This is my number one thing. I'm not familiar with anything.
That seems to be rather, what's the word I'm looking for there? Problematic.
I see nothing. I know nothing.
Okay, Schultz. I see nothing.
Ontario. Yes. The Ontario Integrity Commissioner suggests Amato just name-dropping to up his authority with bureaucrats. Quote, based on the contemporaneous notes and evidence of the ministry officials with whom I interviewed. Sorry. Ministry of, if I'm adding words for some reason. Let's try that again. Based on the contemporaneous notes and evidence of the ministry officials whom I interviewed, I find it more likely than not that Mr. Amato did say that the properties were given from the Premier or the Premier's office. But for reasons set out in the analysis section below, his motive for dropping the name of the premier or the office was probably done to lend authority to his direction. That's possible, but I think that when the premier and the minister give you a total control of a file that could end up transferring $8.3/$25 billion to friends, that you probably don't need to pretend you have authority.
Well,
you don't have to pretend that the premier said that like this in order to lend authority. You have the authority. You've been given a file with no supervision.
Mm-hmm.
That's inherent authority.
The question from Tabby G. Yes, that is correct, Tabby. The individual whose land that they put up for sale that Doug said, we're going to return that land to the Greenbelt, was a donator to, I believe, the Liberal and the Green Party, if memory serves. I could be incorrect about that, but they did not donate to Doug. So they're the ones that get picked on, right?
Yep. I note here there has been no evidence received from any witness in any document to suggest Mr. Clark personally played a role in the selection of the properties. Yeah, because he designed a process where he said, here's your file, and now don't talk to me or say anything about it until you present the report and it shows up on the cabinet table. So, of course, there's nothing to suggest Mr. Clark personally played a role in the selection of the properties because Mr. Clark made sure he didn't play a role in anything.
Oh, I've got something good here.
You can't play a role in absolutely nothing having to do with a file this big.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is the red flag. The report includes a blow-by-blow of the selection process with new details compared to the Auditor General. Here on the issue of why more sites were not looked at, especially with 700-plus site-specific requests for removal in a 10-year review. Quote, when asked if he believed that there are many more properties in the Greenbelt that would meet these criteria, Mr. Amato agreed, stating, yes, and I believe the government put out a public call to that. We received 150 additional sites through the November 4th, 2020 ERO consultation on the Greenbelt removals that the public service had been sitting on, and we were waiting to do a second step. So we did a call to action on that. That was about starting a conversation, so there was more planned.
Of course there was.
There was more planned. Mr. Amato was asked to identify any communications materials confirming this public call for Greenbelt removal requests. He responded on June 14th, 2023 that he had been unable to locate a copy of such form of information containing such a statement, but that he would continue to look. As of the release of this report, he has not provided any document confirming a public call for removal requests. So he just lied through his teeth. Just lied through his teeth. In the end, the Integrity Commissioner found Mr. Clark should have oversight on the role. Quote, Minister Clark has publicly acknowledged that there were problems with the process and used to remove the lands from the Greenbelt, but has not expressed any remorse for his own role in this affair. I believed Minister Clark when he told me that he was unaware of that process. That belief is consistent with the totality of the evidence gathered in this inquiry. However, rather than being exclusively a mitigating factor when it comes to penalty, I find that his lack of awareness was also an aggravating element, since he should have provided greater supervision and control of this significant undertaking entrusted to his ministry. The lack of that oversight led to the unfortunate results set out in this report. And let me remind you here, kids, yes, as Tabby G says, Clark has 40 years of experience. There's no, again, I will say it, universe, galaxy, dimension, solar system, planet, country, continent, area code, or postal code in which this guy should not have known, it could possibly not have known, that a file this big requires supervision. There is no supervision by design. The possible sanctions for violations of the Members of Integrity Act, where the Commissioner conducts an inquiry under subsection 31 and finds that the member has contravened any sections. Pardon? Pardon, Mr. Greeley, sorry, you were saying something?
It was intentional.
Yeah, but I didn't hear what you said, sorry. Oh, it was intentional.
It was intentional.
Where the Commissioner conducts an inquiry under conducts an inquiry under subsection 31 and finds that the member has contravened any sections 2 to 4, 6 to 8, 10 to 12, or 14 to 18, has failed to file a private disclosure statement or statement of material change within the time period provided by section 20, has failed to disclose relevant information in that statement, or has contravened Ontario Parliamentary Convention, the Commissioner shall recommend in his or her report, A, that no penalty be imposed, B, that the member be reprimanded. C, that the member's right to sit and vote in the assembly be suspended for a specified period or until a condition imposed by the commissioner is fulfilled. Or D, that the member's seat be declared vacant. So the integrity commissioner had those 4 options. And for a man of 40 years experience deliberately setting up a system where he could possibly have no oversight, handing the government's #1 file to someone and then providing no oversight, which resulted in a transfer of $8.3 billion, potentially valued at $25 billion in worth, in what is arguably the largest criminal corruption financial scandal in Canadian history, warranted only a reprimand. $25 billion in value transferred like that with no oversight by a man with 40 years experience.
Interesting.
That warrants only a full reprimand, not a half, a whole reprimand,
Yeah.
which Doug Ford didn't even have the intestinal fortitude to give.
Don't make me. Here's a palate cleanser.
If any one of us, if any
James
one of
with
us,
McDreamy.
Yep, if any one of us had done that at our business, at our corporation, at our charity, or something like this,
Oh yeah,
we would be hands behind the back, cheek pressed firmly up against a brick wall. The integrity commissioner recommends a reprimand. Now, Steve, you know you should have done better than that. Learn your lesson and be a good boy next time. Okay? There you go. Now have a cookie. Go do some playing today. Mateo's more fucking mature.
Yeah.
A reprimand. $25 billion of worth. Totally unsupervised process. No process whatsoever. A reprimand is the recommendation for that. Wow. Our integrity commissioner sure has a lot of integrity. He's really tough on the integrity part here.
I'm telling you.
Oh my God. Quote, I appreciate that there will be a political price to be paid by Minister Clark. It seems not. As a result of the findings of this report, he's going to be asked a couple of inconvenient questions for a couple of weeks, and he's just going to plop off by saying, I'm just going to move forward and I accept full responsibility without accepting full responsibility at all. You can't have, I'm going to move forward and I accept full responsibility in the same sentence. I accept full responsibility means I'm going to stop here for a second to think about my responsibility. And I accept full responsibility. Now let's move forward. Right. These two concepts are inherently incompatible. Inherently incompatible. I appreciate that there will be a political price to be paid by Minister Clark as a result of the findings of this report. I also acknowledge that Minister Clark has never before been the subject of an inquiry under the Act. Big fat hairy deal.
So what?
This is one hell of an auspicious debut. He has no past record. Yeah, well, you know what? He started out with a huge one. Jeez.
Maybe a little bit.
Well, it's like, for your first offense, you only transferred $25 billion in wealth. Now, if you do it again, this is why we cannot have elected people making the own rules and deciding the consequences that govern their own behavior or misbehavior. This is the inherent conflict of interest. You need a citizens panel saying, hey, you know what? If you break this ethics rule, it's not a $500 fine and a slap on the wrist. It's like you lose your seat and you have to make full restitution. Because a reprimand for a process this flawed with a man with 40 years experience?
We're going to take the 14 recommendations. 15. There were 15. Stop gaslighting us.
That's just not on. In all the circumstances, I am satisfied. This is the integrity commissioner quote. in all of the circumstances, I'm satisfied that a recommendation that the Legislative Assembly impose a reprimand by accepting this recommendation. He's not even asking that Doug Ford reprimand him. He wants the legislature. So let's use more government time and resources and all that kind of stuff to have a whole bunch of people talk about this for a few hours in the House like this, and then launch a reprimand, which will do sweet fuck all.
I don't even know what to say anymore.
Oh my God. I'm just...
I hear you.
And Doug Ford. Yep, he's staying in his job. Yeah,
but
Operation Human Shield. He's staying in his job because he's your human shield.
Mm.
You cut him loose, he talks. He talks, you go down. This is wholly unethical.
I really want him to cut him loose so we can find out all the dirt.
Oh my God.
I want all of it. I want all the dirt.
I want all the dirt. Yep. You said you had something?
I do, and this is going to knock your socks off. Because I'm like, oh my goodness gracious me. This is wow. I'm going to flash the headline on the screen for just a couple of seconds. This is from the Washington Post. This story came out at 6 a.m. today. Highways are the next anti-abortion target. One Texas town is resisting. A new ordinance passed in several jurisdictions and under consideration elsewhere aims to stop people from using local roads to drive someone out of state for an abortion. Welcome to Gilead.
So
Welcome
your
to
state
The
is now
Handmaid's Tale. Restricting your movements because they might be going out of state for an abortion. This is draconian. This is his big brother, Gilead. I'm sorry. They're restricting your movement.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
Also your right to assembly. You can't have somebody else drive you either.
No.
They will do they are obsessed with this. And you would think that, after passing it and seeing them losing the midterms and then losing, I think, the 6 states where they've had referendums on this, or ballot measures, would be their sign. Nope. They're just putting their head down and plowing away.
For well over an hour, the people of Llano, a town of about 3,400 deep in Texas Hill Country, approached the podium to speak out against abortion. While the procedure was now illegal across Texas, people were still driving women on Llano roads to reach abortion clinics in other states. The residents had been told. They said their city had a responsibility to, in quotation, fight the murders.
The GDP numbers came in. Canada's economy shrank in the second quarter, contracting at an annualized rate of 0.2%, Statistics Canada says. So that's exactly, Statistics Canada predicted it correctly, 0.2%. The second quarter reading was lower than growth of 1.2% expected by analysts and 1.5% expected by the Bank of Canada. So growth was lower than expected from the Bank of Canada. So hopefully, that will be a sign that interest rates will not go up this Wednesday. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But that's the latest data. I would monitoring that there all morning to make sure that we can get that to you today. So I'm glad we were able to do that.
So some insight on this article. I just want to give you some more insight. Here's Jessica Valenti. You know who? I don't know if you're familiar with Jessica Valenti.
That name sounds similar, but I can't
she's
remember.
A writer. She's a writer. You can find her on the Twitter. She says, you don't need to pass a law banning travel outright. You just need to have to make it impossible for someone to leave because friends and family are too afraid to lend them a car or gas money for fear of being accused of trafficking, in which case you'll be imprisoned because you loaned somebody a car to drive out of state to get an abortion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm reading a little bit.
How are they gonna stop that when it comes to the military, though?
Yeah. I'm reading a little bit about her, and she's a writer, and she has like really interesting book titles, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Valenti is the author of 5 books. Full Frontal Feminism,
Mm-hmm.
2007. There's a title that makes you want to read the book. He's a Stud, She's a Slut, 2008. The Purity Myth, 2009. Why Have Kids, 2012. And Sex Object, a Memoir, 2016. Whoa. I have a feeling that she has a little bit of an edge when she writes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, well, she wrote an article on her Substack, jessica.substack.com, Abortion and Snitch Culture, the plan for abortion ban enforcement. People are ratting each other out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Some not so fun news. It's U.S. and international based, but you know, when you often make the comment, Mr. Grizzly, like I make the comment about reporting when stuff happens, and you're saying that, yeah, stand up, report, but remember, you know, you have more privilege than other people. We've had some evidence of that lately. In Los Angeles, not too long ago, there's a lady named Laura Ann Carlton. She's 66. She had a little shop in LA. She's an ally of the community. She isn't gay.
Yeah, I know about this.
But she had some pride flags there. And some people kept on stealing the pride flags up from her shop, so then she just put up a bigger one next time. But at one point, she caught one guy doing it, and they got into a verbal altercation, and he took out a gun, shot her in the head. She's dead. Mother of 6 children.
Yeah. 66 years old.
Then,
and then, of course, Brian Lilly, along with other members of the Conservative government. I know Brian's not actually in the government, but, you know, he's their mouthpiece. Went on about how when GAC, Global Affairs Canada, issued a warning for rainbow folks to not travel to the U.S. because it could be dangerous, he dismissed that as being ridiculous. Excuse me? A woman had a flag in her window and was murdered over it. Please tell me how that's not dangerous for somebody who is a member of that community. I'm listening, Brian. Please spell out in detail how safe it is to travel to certain states in the United States of America, that it's safe to travel there if you happen to be a member of the LGBTQ plus community. When a woman who isn't, but showing her allyship by flying the flag in her shop, was murdered over it. Please tell me again how it's safe and that the Canadian government is being alarmist over this. I'm really eager to hear an explanation for that. Brian Lilly, fuck off.
And Jennifer Johnson, fuck you.
Like what?
As Lisa often says. So there was that lady in LA. Then in Brooklyn, 28-year-old man, O'Shea Sibley, was at a gas station with friends, dancing and voguing. Dancing and voguing. When some person came around and decided that he should be unalived for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a little bit of confrontation. He stood up to him too, and yep. Just like, no, sorry. You're just a little too uppity. You must go.
Wow. I
just he was stabbed outside a Mobile gas station in Midwood, Brooklyn. They were playing Beyonce music and voguing. That was their crime.
So again, Brian Lilly, please tell us how the government of Canada is being alarmist when they issue a warning for LGBTQ plus people to be very cautious when traveling to the United States of America. Please, again, tell me how that's being alarmist or being ridiculous or playing politics when we have cases of people getting murdered for just existing. And in one case, one person wasn't even a member of the community.
The person who killed him is a 17-year-old male. When we're talking about indoctrinating and grooming,
Yep.
17-year-old. This young man, O'Shea Sibley, leaves behind 10 siblings.
Oh,
His family, one of 11 siblings. Prior to moving from Philadelphia to Brownsville, Brooklyn to pursue career opportunities, he had been part of Philadanco since his teen years. He was a part of an all-queer dance group that he joined for a video project called Vogue for Black Lives Matter. He performed at the Lincoln Center even.
well,
He was good. He used not only his dance skills for art purposes, but to advocate for social change. So basically, his friends were there playing Renaissance by Beyonce and voguing, and a group of people exited the convenience store, approached them, telling them to stop dancing while hurling homophobic slurs and racist statements against him, and accused them of being offensive to their religion. A witness quoted one member of the group who said, "We're Muslim, and I don't want you dancing." Sibley then confronted the group and attempted to de-escalate the situation. An argument ensued, and Sibley was ultimately stabbed by one of the teenagers. He sustained a stab wound to the torso after receiving first aid by his friends and was rushed to Manamides Medical Center, where he was later pronounced dead. They murdered him because he was dancing to Beyonce and he dared to stand up to his friends. Stand up for his friends.
right.
Meanwhile, in Uganda, a man has recently been charged with aggravated homosexuality under the new law over there. The offense is punishable by death. The suspect, quote, was charged in Soroti in eastern Uganda, and he is on remand in prison. He will be appearing in court for mention of the case. According to the charge sheet, the 20-year-old suspect was charged on 18 August and is accused of, quote, unlawful sexual intercourse with a male adult aged 41. Statement of offense, aggravated homosexuality, contrary to the Anti-Homosexuality Act of 2023. And if that wasn't bad enough, in Nigeria...
And you know where those laws were, you know who gave them the ideas for those laws,
Christian right. And they tied development funding to it.
America.
And they tied development funding to it. In Nigeria, more than 60 people are arrested at a gay wedding. Arrests of gay people are common in Nigeria, where gay marriage is punishable by up to 14 years in prison. Police in Nigeria said Tuesday that they detained at least 67 people celebrating a gay wedding in one of the country's largest arrests targeting outlawed homosexuality. The, quote, gay suspects, unquote, were arrested in southern Delta State's Ekpan town at about 2 a.m. on Monday at an event where two of them were wedded. State police spokesman Bright Idafi told reporters. He added that homosexuality, quote, will never be tolerated in the West African nation. More than 30 African countries already ban same-sex relationships, and arrests of gay people are common in Nigeria. They stormed a hotel in Ekpan where the gay wedding was being held and initially arrested 200 people. Later, the 67 of them were detained after initial investigations. It's just... The amazing part of it was that we saw two suspects and there is a video recording where they were performing their wedding ceremony. We are in Africa and we are in Nigeria. We cannot copy the Western world because we don't have the same culture. The same culture of just letting people be.
Live.
Love.
Just... Exactly. Once again, all the damn time.
All the bad stuff.
I've got the stupidest headline I've ever read about. You gotta. Oh my God!
Right.
This is the stupidest thing I've read today. It's only 9:30, so there's plenty of time to read something dumber. But when I tell you this, you're gonna what? This is from USA Today. This was from August 30th, so 2 days ago. More than half of dog owners are suspicious of rabies and other vaccines, new study finds. 2,200 people were polled. Of those polled, 37% believe canine vaccination is unsafe, 22% feel it's ineffective, and 30% find it unnecessary. Overall, a whopping 53% hold at least one of those beliefs. The results surprised Matt and Gabriella Motta, the brother and sister duo who conducted the study alongside co-researcher Dominic Sticula. We were pretty surprised because we knew that this phenomenon would exist. Anecdotally, we had good reason to believe that it was, but we were pretty stunned. Some of these folks are worried that their dog may have developed autism from a vaccine. Again, I'll put the link in the chat because you got to read, folks. I want you to read this because it's honest to goodness. It's the dumbest thing I've read today. And there's, that's a wrong. That's a good one though. But
Dan goes, "Okay, it's official. Today's a drinking day. What the fuck is wrong with these folks?"
Yeah.
Now they're vet medicine experts, says Kit Linda. Yeah. I think, and pardon the Kit's watching for my Tucker Carlson face during that.
Yeah. It's like, I can't make something up so bloody stupid. The study also found the persistence of long disproven vaccine myths that usually apply to humans, with nearly 40% of respondents expressing concern that vaccines could cause their dogs to develop autism.
How would you know if your dog is autistic? Coco, come here. Where the hell's he going? I don't.
Your dog would act like a cat? I don't know.
I'll lick you, but only so much.
You get 2 belly pats, and then I smack you.
Okay, cats I can understand. But dogs?
PNC bio. My cat is autistic. Now I know why.
Oh, God. Kit Jen, don't let it get you down. Darwin is at work. Oh, God, work faster. Dude.
Remember when I said, I say it all too often, we live in the most informed and yet most willfully ignorant time in history.
God.
And it's getting worse.
Jeez. To finish up the last little story there, I was on the stuff. According to GLAAD, the Gay Lesbian Alliance for Anti-Defamation, I believe it is, they had a survey, and 91% of heterosexual Americans believe that rainbow people should live without facing discrimination. 84% believe that they should have equal rights. So we're talking about a very, 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 very small minority of people that are doing things like shooting people, stabbing people, or going into Target and destroying, vandalizing displays and making employees feel unsafe, or all the things that they've been doing, right? But despite the fact that there's so much acceptance in the United States, there's been a greater than 300% increase in anti-rainbow incidents during this past Pride Month alone, year over year. Quote, "It boils down to politicization of our community. Really what we're seeing is that politicians are filling the airwaves with anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, and it's getting picked up on social media, and then it's turning from online to offline in real life into hate and violence, as I have personally experienced recently. Not to the extent that Laura Ann Carlton and O'Shea Sibley did.
No.
And as Mr. Fab recently, Mr. Fabulous expressed, people are a little too comfortable being assholes.
Well, Mike Tyson has said,
yep.
People have been spending, here, I'll put the quote up. Here it is. This is the quote from Mike Tyson. Social media made y'all way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it.
Yep. And so even though it was such a very tiny group of people who are anti-LGBTQ, the vast majority of Americans are allies or LGBTQ, as the statistics point out, but they're making a lot of noise and they're super violent. And I just want to point out, not only are they now violent towards our community, which we're used to, sadly, as a community, they're violent towards our allies. They're violent towards corporations. If you remember back to Pride Month when Bud Light and Target were threatened with violence from these anti-LGBTQ folks, so they've really heated it up and turned up the volume on violence against our community and our allies. That's Sarah Kate Ellis, the president and CEO of GLAAD. Half the documented incidents were perpetrated by people with links to extremist groups. Yay. And over 600 pieces of anti-gay legislation this year alone have been introduced in the United States. And that's why, if there really are more of us than there are of them, And in this type of proportion, 91% to 9, put your body in the way. Put your body in the way. Now, I know it sounds weird as we're talking, put your body in the way, as we're talking about Laura Ann Carlton getting shot and O'Shea Silly getting stabbed, and both of them having died.
Remember, folks, when we ask you to stand up and stand out, live to fight another day. Sometimes you need to walk away. But you can always record the incident and put it online, put it on blast, as the kids say. So for the whole world to see a bad person doing something bad.
Yeah. Offer support, offer corroborating witness statement.
Reach out to Mr. Tizzyent. He'll find the culprits.
Yeah. Stay on the scene so that when the immediate threat is there, you can put your arm around someone. But yeah, it's pretty bad. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show today?
We do indeed, sir. We do indeed.
All right, and we have. I don't know. Is Dean doing something live now, or is he just pretty much?
Yeah, he's got an interview with David Moscrop coming up at 10 a.m. So we got to vamoose. We got to get out of the studio so he can use the space.
David Moscrop. Oh, by the way,
yes.
I should mention this thing. I had a little moment with David yesterday.
Oh, really?
on Twitter. He had posted something to make a joke, and I decided that I wanted to jump in with it, and now I'm probably not going to be able to find it, right? There it is.
Of course.
Yeah. So he saw a guy named Steve McLeod. He posted something called Clark is a coward and a buffoon, resign. And subtweeted Colin Mellow's article, tweet about it. New Housing Minister Stephen Clark issues an apology. Apologies doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence for not having the proper oversight over his former chief of staff. And then this guy, Stuart McLeod, just decides to do this for some reason as a response. So he takes David Moscrop's very fetching avatar and decides to just make that a post. Now, to that, he goes,
would do him
10 on 10. And then he goes, oh my God, that's me. So embarrassing. So I was going to say that you have great taste. And I did that because the last time I announced that David Moscrop was coming on the show, there was a couple of kits of the feminine persuasion on the chat that went, ooh, oh, he's so dreamy. David has some fans, and
Dr. David, by the way.
Yes, and he has some fans that don't only love him for his mind.
No.
I'm just saying. So he goes, thank you. Then it says, anytime, I'm always willing to boost morale. I figure it was a kinder option than, ooh, I don't know, David. You might want to name a little lower, sweetie. I think he might be out of your league.
That's good. That's good. I like that. All right, let's wrap up. We got to get out of here. We got to get out of the studio.
That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver podcast. We hope you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Kid Sassy goes, I'm attracted to his bookends. Jen Waddell, Moscrop's bookshelf equals moist. We have some sapiosexuals here in the room. Remember that sharing. Yeah. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please let your peeps and poops know about us because democracy is something that you do. Stay on your media, stay on your MPs, your senators, and donate to the Red Cross. All right. If you really like this podcast, you can find us on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. As well as all Beaver Grizzly friendly platforms. Stars and reviews are appreciated. Please be generous. Kit Plain Power goes, great episode. Glad you were still on when I logged in this morning. I'm glad that you're here, Kit Plain Power.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
We love to hear from you. Please reach us on our Facebook at True North Eager Beaver, our Twitter at True Eager, or by email at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And when you're writing to us, let us know some of your democracy is something that you do moments. And some of you have already started. We have Kitland M that said, "Today, I paid my $5 and submitted a Freedom of Information request to the Ontario government for the ministerial mandate letters from the 2018 to 2022 legislature and for the present government. We'll see what kind of response I get, and when I get it, I had informally requested Monty McNaughton's mandate letter as his constituent. I had informally requested Monty McNaughton's mandate letter as his constituent and got no answer to my request. At least now they'll have to answer me. Yes, Kitland M. Boom. Go." So if you've done something of the sort, please, kids and kids, just let us know how it is that you're doing democracy. This makes me
How does the song go?
very happy.
This is how we do it.
Yes. Doom, boom, 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 boom. This is how we do it. Na, 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 yeah, yeah. All right. Why not also subscribe, since you are subscribing to Podpage, sponsored by the Ray Girl? Podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those. But also make like Kit Lane and smash those buttons. We have a like button. We have a subscribe button. We have a share button. We have so many buttons. Press them. Press our buttons. Press them. All right. Yeah. So you go to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel and you smash all those buttons, and that helps us out big time. Thank you so very much. So very much. Kit Linda says, everybody in Ontario should do a request, inundate them. Why not? There we go. And Kit Elaine reminds you, that's Page, not Cage. We can't do this without your kind and generous support. It's the last day of the month, people. So if we've done a good month for you, hey, show us some love. You can do that by going to our coffee page. That is coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. That's lowercase letters, all in one word. And that's where you can go to make your donation, as have some wonderful people. I don't know if I had mentioned them already on the show. If I'm mentioning twice, well, you know what? You're so nice. You could do it. But we had Kit Wishful Sun, Kit MK, and Kit Cheryl all make donations to us on the 30th. So thank you so very much. Yes, sorry, Douglas, it is September 1st. I keep on forgetting. So yes, it's the start of the new month, not the end of the month. So who helped us finish the month very well. Thank you. And it has been a great month for us in terms of downloads. I think we're up 65% downloads month over month from the month before. Highest amount of downloads than we have. I think we had 25% or 20% of our annual downloads all took place in the month of August.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened in August. We thought that there'd be a dip during the summer. It seems that while other people took a dip, maybe people found us. And they've decided to stay. Our 30-day unique listener numbers are through the roof. 30-day download numbers are through the roof. Kits, whatever it is that you're doing, thank you so much. Please keep the love coming in. There are days I don't know how to react, to be totally honest, when it's coming in, because it's so much. But we love you. Thank you. Please keep it coming. The more people hear about us, the more good we can do. So we can't do this without your kind and generous support. If you feel we've done a good show, you go to coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And that's where you can make your donation. And there we go. There are the squigglies that have just appeared by Mr. Grizzly's head for the coffee, and right under my chin for Podpage, sponsored by the Ray Girl, if you'd like to subscribe. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying until next time, dear kids, it can be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom, please.
Let's keep the heat on Doug Ford. Let's keep the heat on him. Write your MPP. Demand Clark and Ford step down. Demand it. Anything less
they both have
is a dereliction of duty. They both have to go. Period.
Clean house. Grab some brooms.
That's all I got for you, man.
This place is a dump. Clean it up.
Yep. They both need to go.
Yep. They both need to go. All right, Mr. Grizzly, please roll them credits.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, The Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum. And The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
All right, and before we go, programming note, because we just had it confirmed. Now, of course,
do you want to? You're revealing the Christmas present. Keep the wrapping on, dude.
I know. I have.
Here's the programming note. No, let's keep that one under wraps. We're going to keep that one under wraps. Monday's show will be pre-recorded because it's a holiday and I won't be here. So we're going to have a pre-recorded show for you Monday, and we're keeping the Christmas wrapping on that little thing until we drop it on you. Okay?
Oh, you are making this so difficult for me because I just want to share everything.
You got to hang on to it, man. You can't show them the cards. We're playing poker. You can't show your hand. We got to go. Dean needs to jump in. We'll see you soon. Take care.